Morning. Good morning, everybody. Hopefully everybody had a good trip in this morning or last night. Nice dinner last night with the commissioner and staff. I believe the commissioner is going to be joining us here for a few minutes this morning. And new deputy commissioner is going to spend most of the day with us, I think, or part of the day with us. So they're looking forward to September. So everybody's going to get a new education in September. So just a couple quick things here. Just remember, with our new format here, we want to be very cognizant of what we're our time. We want to make sure that we're not trying to run down some rabbit holes that are not actually what we need to be talking about. As you know, quality questions. You guys know that I always want to make sure you got all your questions answered. Let's just do our best not to run off on tangents here or there, and please don't get offended if Julie or I kind of try to bring you back to track if we have to. Okay. Roll call. Carl. Here. Jason.
Here.
Sarah.
Here.
Roberta.
Here.
Julie.
Here.
Alicia.
Here.
Kim.
Here.
Dean. Here. Judy.
Here.
So we have everybody here. Any quick questions? We gotta do our approval of minutes from our June meeting, correct? June meeting, which I believe got sent out.
I move for approval.
Second.
Any questions, changes? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, like I say, just before we get going, I just want to make sure everybody's cognizant that time is of the essence with our new timings. Questions will be asked at the end, if I remember this right. We will have our presentations, and then all the questions will be asked at the end. We'll try to do what we did last time, is make sure we give you a heads up when you're a few minutes left of the presentation so you can wrap up so we can get our questions answered. Okay? Everybody good with that?
Mm-hmm.
Perfect. Thank you. MQuip. Good morning, Nicole. How are you? Good, thanks.
Okay, so big picture reminder, I'm going to do some highlights today, right? We're not digging too deep into any of these things, but our 5 objectives is part of our core dairy product quality and safety program, and then our supplemental projects. So first, starting with the DCQSP, a couple of highlights from this. Mid-year, we have 30, and actually we just enrolled one more. So we have 31 fluid milk processors enrolled in our voluntary shelf life program. We have communicated results of our DPO-funded projects and leveraged our research through currently 6 peer-reviewed articles published this year and 1 industry article. We've submitted a total of 3 additional requests for funding through agencies like USDA, NBC, to leverage the investment that you all have made in our program and continue doing dairy research that's relevant to New York State. We've amplified your investment with over $500,000 in additional funding from those submitted requests. We've done 14 industry workshops and trainings to date, brought in over $200,000 in fee-based income, so this is industry paying for our services for workshops and our food processing development laboratory. We have developed a screening approach for pre-processing contamination in fluid milk plants, so that's to look for those organisms that could potentially cause those bitter milks that we talked about before in extended shelf life milk. And we've had 4 deployments of the rapid response team. And I just want to take a minute to talk about the importance of that rapid response framework. Good morning.
Morning.
To the New York area industry. So you're all well aware at this point that in March, there was a confirmation that illnesses that were happening on farms in Texas and neighboring states were actually highly pathogenic avian influenza spreading across that area of the country. And since we've obviously had many more farms and more states that have confirmed cases of this avian influenza. As soon as this occurred, we reached out to folks across Cornell that were working in this space, Animal Science Department, the College of Veterinary Medicine, and we brought together a group of folks who could develop some initial materials based on what we knew about avian influenza and other agriculture sectors, and put out a fact sheet, and then started to do monthly virtual office hours on this topic, because we had folks almost immediately, multiple times a week, processors reaching out to us, asking us questions about this outbreak. What does it mean for them? What should they be doing? How should they be responding? What should they tell their producers, right? So lots of folks reaching out, so we knew that there was an opportunity to provide some guidance, provide some feedback to the industry. So we've done so far 3 of these virtual office hours in April, May, and June. We have 1 more scheduled for next month. And I just wanted to point out these numbers. So we do these office hours that are focused on dairy every other month already. This is something we've been doing since COVID. It's an opportunity for industry to come and ask questions on a variety of topics. We usually choose a topic and try to stick to questions surrounding that, but we can answer questions on anything. So it's a group of experts available to the industry. We don't charge for this at all. Usually we get, 50 to 100 people showing up to these, to our regular ones. But you can see we had, over 200 in 2 of them, and almost 200 registered, and then a really high proportion of those showing up to these HPAI office hours. People are really, concerned about this. We then post these online, and usually we have a couple hundred views over time. Just in the short, couple of months that these have been up, they're getting hundreds and hundreds of views. So this is something that people are using as a resource, going to and rewatching these videos to find out, what the state of this is and what the impact might be. So, coming up, we have more of these office hours planned. So we have one planned for August 13th. And then there's a group of us in food science in the College of Veterinary Medicine that's Dr. Diego Diaz, he's a virologist. He's been working on this outbreak since before we knew it was avian influenza. The 3 of us, Sam O'Kane and myself and Diego, are continuing to do research on this topic as it pertains to food safety and the impact on consumers. So we'll continue to work in that space. So I just wanted to highlight, we already had all these people at Cornell, right? And in the food science department, partially due to the ongoing support of this board, making sure that we have the right people at Cornell to respond to these things and answer these questions. All right, a quick update on our workforce development efforts. A few pictures from our recent food camps. Just this year, we've had 2 food camps, one in March and one in June. The one in March we did at the new Great Lakes Cheese facility in Franklinville. That one was really well received. We had 25 participants, 12 applications after that boot camp, which was the highest number that we've seen since. And at the time I put this together, 6 of those people had been hired by Great Lakes Cheese in Franklinville. The June 2024 boot camp was done in the capital region near Albany. We had Belgioso, Stewart, Schuff, and Noble Farms participate. We had 21 participants, 6 applicants by the time when I put this together, it had been like a week and a half since that one, so it's very, early data, and I hadn't received any feedback on if any of those applicants have been hired yet. But we're pretty happy with these numbers. In the beginning, we were getting like 1 applicant, 2 applicants. So I think we're hitting more of the right population of people who might go into these jobs. So that's, I think, moving in the right direction. We're also, we kind of pivoted from our original plan of focusing just on career-ready high school students, and now we're doing general population boot camps, and we're doing what we call a micro boot camp that's just at high schools. So we're going into high schools. We've had a number of them. You can see we're reaching a lot of these career-ready students. So these are 11th and 12th grade students at Groton, Madison, Oneida, Oxford Academy, so all over the place, Tennessee Valley Bossies. And what we do is just a really quick overview, right? So we kind of condense some of this material down so that these students get the gist of sort of what they could do in a processing facility, what the perks of working in dairy processing are. Okay, moving on to our supplemental projects. First of all, our raw milk benchmarking project, we are just wrapping this up. We've collected, or at the time that I put this together, at the end of June, it was 436 raw milk samples collected. I think we're at 500 now. Over 10,000 tests conducted. This is it's a big project. We're doing a lot of work on raw milk right now. So you can see, almost 4,000 microbial tests, over 6,000 chemical tests, which Dave Barbados is doing a lot of help with that, and nearly 500 sensory tests. So we have a lot of data. We're really excited about this. There's so much information here. Obviously, we'll finish collecting this data in our next steps. Well, I do want to point out, we're actually using these samples that we're collecting for 2 other projects that you funded as well, and I'll talk a little bit about that. But this has been a really great way to get a cross-section of New York raw milk samples that we can then leverage for other projects as well, so it makes it really New York-centric, the other data that we're collecting. Next up on this, we're finishing up in September. We'll be done with sample collection and testing, and then we will do the analysis with our survey that we collected and all of these raw milk quality parameters to identify where there are risk factors at the farm for some of these parameters that we looked at. How am I doing on time? I only have like 15 minutes, right? So.
You're good.
Okay.
You still got, you still got 20 minutes, so total for questions and everything.
Okay, all right. So I think I'm tracking. All right, so our thermodirect and unspider lactic acid bacteria project. Those are just a reminder of what the objectives were, right? And I didn't spend much time on there. So we did this experiment where we developed a method that would provide more relevant information on the types of bacteria that we find in raw milk and throughout the raw milk to pre-pasteurized milk chain, to narrow down the population of bacteria that are more relevant to the types of dairy products that we're manufacturing in New York, because the current test gives us a really broad set of organisms that just have no relevance to the finished products that we're making here in New York State. So we completed all of that. A couple of key things that we found. I know you guys can't see this very well, but we used strains of different bacteria that are found from the laboratory pasteurization count test. And we used those pure culture strains to test 24 different methods. We had 24 different unique methods that we tested. This is just results from the comparison of Petri film, which is sort of a really easy to use media type that's used in a lot of dairy plants, to a agar plate, right? A lot of folks want to use Petri films because they are really cost effective, they save space, there's a lot of pros to them. So we wanted to look at, do we see differences between that and the agar plate? And unfortunately, we see really big differences. So the red lines here are the standard methods agar, the blue lines are Petri films, and depending on which organism you have we don't see any growth on Petri phones. So it really underestimates the organisms that are there. So that's really problematic. And obviously we want to use a really easy test like a Petri phone, but if it's not going to give us results that are accurate, then we obviously can't sacrifice that. Another thing that we saw, we tested 4 different heat treatments, and this is just the sort of reduction in bacterial load over those 4 different heat treatments. The one that we ended up moving forward with was the highest heat treatment, and we weren't terribly surprised about that because it's the one that most closely mimics the high temperature short-time pasteurization, which is obviously what we're using the most of. But the way that we developed that, it is a lot easier to replicate at a lab scale than, the actual 72 for 15 seconds. So we moved forward with our raw milk samples that we're collecting for the raw milk project, and are comparing what we call the modified laboratory pasteurization count, that higher temperature heat treatment, with the traditional laboratory pasteurization count. And this is just a histogram of those 2 methods. So the red bars here are what we find in the traditional LPC. The blue bars here are what we find in the modified LPC. So it's doing exactly what we were hoping it would do. These are just some high-level statistics on that test. We see a lower overall level here, and now we're looking at the populations that we find there. So confirming that what we expect to be there is true based on these naturally contaminated raw milk samples. The next piece of that was the non-starter lactic acid bacteria. Again, just some high-level statistical results here. Basically, we wanted to look for what are called heterofermentative lactic acid bacteria and homofermentative lactic acid bacteria. The heterofermentative produce gas and acid. So if you think about these organisms being in like a cheese product that's not supposed to have gas production, that's what they do, right? They produce this gas, it makes the cheese unsaleable. Homofermentative, those are the ones that produce just acid. Okay, so those can still be problematic, but where we see most of the defects coming in from industry are those heterofermentative. So we're really focusing in on those. We're using this system to characterize carbohydrate fermentation in those bacteria that we collected from the raw milk samples that are heterofermentative. We want to know what kind of carbohydrates do they actually, are they actually able to ferment? So then we can identify which products we're most interested in tracking those organisms. So we're continuing some in-plant and on-farm inline sampling for this project using these screening methods that we have put together, comparing those isolates that we're finding from naturally contaminated milk with the products that we've gotten in that have defects from these types of organisms. And then the last thing we'll do is develop some outreach material to the industry to make sure that they know which of these methods to use in circumstances that are relevant to them. All right, so water and aerosols is the source of transmission pathway for microbial contamination at the farm and processing facility. So we selected farms. Again, we purposefully used farms that we're already working with for the raw milk project because we have a lot of data already on these farms, and we're able to then, sort of compare what we find in the water to what we've been finding in the milk. So it gives us a much broader data set to work with, and will be really valuable when we look at the analysis. So these are stratified by location and then by water source. We did some beta testing on this system in some processing facilities and at the farm, just meaning we collected water samples, we ran through the whole protocol that we had developed. We had developed some new methods because some of these things are not standard that we want to look for, right, that are relevant to dairy products, some of the bacteria types. So we wanted to make sure that those methods worked before we start collecting a lot of samples. These are photos of the plates. It's maybe a little hard to see, but you might see like a big yellow splotch there and a lot of little red dots. So the water samples we collected have way more bacteria in them of these specific groups that folks don't typically look for than we were expecting. So I think, we had to adjust sort of how we're approaching this now because of that, but I think we're onto something here as far as what we're going to find in this water project, because there's a lot in there that, no coliform spout, no E. coli, and that's what people look for, right? So we're supposed to start this week with our sampling, and FedEx lost all of our filters for our to filter our water. So we've been told that we should get them next week. So we're ready to go as soon as we have those. All right. On our modeling pasteurization survival. Yeah, I know. Casey and Tam and I did a Facebook Live yesterday. I don't know if any of you saw it. It was our very first Facebook Live, and we were celebrating 100 years of the pasteurized milk ordinance, and we were showing off the pasteurizer. So where we're at here on this modeling pasteurization survival, we are both looking into literature to identify what the major microbial populations in contemporary raw milk are. But then also, because we have all these New York-centric raw milk samples, we're doing a bunch of metagenomics on these raw milk samples. So we'll actually have, this is just a plot that shows you sort of relative abundance of different bacterial genera in a sample, right? So this is how we represent it. So we see, okay, it's, 60% Pseudomonas, it's 20% Bacillus, whatever it happens to be, right? So we're making that data set on this New York State milk so that when we go into this modeling step, everything is really centric to New York State raw milk populations, and that's really exciting to us. We just finished another project that was U.S.-wide, and we're able to see significant differences in the bacterial population by climate zone within the United States. And that makes a lot of sense because a lot of these bacteria come from natural environments, right? So when they, sort of grow and live in a really hot, humid environment, they're very different than when they grow and live in a drier environment, right? So I think having this New York State specific data will be really beneficial to us. What we're also doing as part of this project is taking inline samples from the processing facility, because we know that the raw milk population is one thing, the bacterial population in the raw milk is one thing. But what happens between the time it gets onto the truck and gets pasteurized is another thing. And we know that there's an increase in bacterial population and an introduction of new bacteria during that process. And so we're doing sampling at a couple of different points on the truck, which is not on here, the holding tank where the raw milk comes into the plant, right before the pasteurizer, so that's here, and then right after the pasteurizer, so we can actually track what's happening to those populations through this time point. So this might sound familiar to some of our other projects. We're actually taking samples that we can use for multiple different purposes. So we're trying to be really efficient with how we're using the processor's time, the producer's time, and our lab analysts and our materials. So, okay, next steps on this one, we're going to continue this sampling inline in the processing facility and our raw milk metagenomics. We'll start that thermal destruction piece. So we have the equipment for doing this work where we can spike milk and then heat treat it and then determine what's the reduction in the bacterial numbers. And then we'll work on that model. Actually, we started this model. So one of the key things with modeling is building the model helps you understand what information you need to get experimentally. So we have actually started that model, but we'll put all of these parameters into the model. All right, and then last one, I don't have much on this one because we were at the mercy of PM schedules at the processing facility. So this is the targeted tracking of contamination in school milk fillers. We have our first sampling next week at the first plant, and then the second one is scheduled in September. So we're we're gonna be on track to get this one done by the end of the year, but, they were doing PM during those 2 months, so that's when we're doing this. All right.
Perfect
Thank you
timing.
so much.
Perfect timing.
Good.
Questions? One of the questions, your workforce development.
Yep.
Happy? What do you foresee in the future? Continuing? What's your hopes, your goals?
Yeah, not fully happy, to be honest. I think that we are reaching a lot of people with the, sort of message of what's available. I would have loved to see more people in jobs from this initiative. I think we will continue doing workforce development, but we're gonna tweak the sort of, program that we're doing right now. Much more focused on the processing facilities themselves and sort of helping them to understand today's workers in the workforce, because we see a big disconnect between what are today's job seekers looking for and what do dairy processors think, they should offer to people. So definitely something we're going to continue. We've made a lot of connections. We are in, workforce development centers across the state. We've made connections with all sorts of high schools and BOCES, and we have the processor connections, but I think that what we've built is really valuable. Do I think we'll continue this in exactly the way it is? No. I think we'll have to make some changes.
How do your processors feel?
Some of them really, really excited about learning more about how to reach the people that are looking for jobs. Some of them are resistant, right? So it kind of runs the gamut. We have a lot of people who are excited to participate in this program, but I think when it comes to us providing feedback about what might need to be changed in order to improve their workforce numbers, that's a little bit stickier. So I think that that's something that we'll need to spend some time on.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, along those lines, Nicole, where does that fall in the cap? Because I was having a hard time.
Yeah, so you guys don't pay for workforce development at all, so this falls under our sort of industry support.
Which I think is great. I just
Yeah.
wanted to see if that was.
It's in the DPQSP under objectives 3 or 4, I can't remember off the top of my head, but it falls under, supporting the industry to grow and increase, sales. And
Have you talked with anybody at the Northeast Dairy Innovation Center? Because they've been talking, if you have talked to them, they're working on trying to gather more information on how to help these programs.
okay, that's fantastic. I haven't heard of
Connect you.
that'd be great. I mean, we work with them on other programs, so
But
I haven't.
they have a group of people they're talking with about workforce development.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great.
Well, they're still looking for a few.
Okay, fantastic. That's perfect.
Couldn't hurt to
Yeah,
try that out a little. Maybe they'll have some funding too, so.
yeah, absolutely.
I'll make that connection.
Thank
Roberta?
Just, on your raw milk, sampling, are you seeing some of the, non-traditional, bugs that might help with some of our newer facilities that are coming in, some of their concerns?
Yeah, so we're learning a lot, and again, we haven't done the analysis, so I can't tell you anything for sure. But what we're seeing across both microbial measures that we're doing, as well as those like somatic cell count, the differential somatic cell count, and then some chemical measures like mercury and nitrogen, really, really varied outcomes based on the farm. So I think that we'll have some really interesting things to follow up on in this project. But yes, valuable, and in fact, we added some parameters based on what we had heard from producers about what certain incoming processors want to see in their raw milk quality supply, or raw milk supply. So yeah, I think it's a hugely valuable data set. I think I would love to have more conversations with this group about how we can leverage it even more than what we currently have planned. So I think it's really a great promotion tool, and that was one of our goals, but I think brainstorming on how we can do that is really important.
Sarah?
One comment I just want to make, thank you guys for doing that, the avian bird flu. I participated in that, and it's been very, very helpful for gathering knowledge because it is a little scary. And then kind of just go back to that workforce development, that's really sticking out in my head. How are you guys determining when you're going to schools or what schools? Because I'm just brainstorming, thinking of like all the different other ag teachers or whatnot that would probably love to have you come talk.
Absolutely. So one of our workforce development specialists was a former ag teacher, so she's really connected in with that group of people. And so far, we have a really long list of schools that want to participate. And we work through them in between our main boot camps. So those take a lot of effort to get up and coordinated and running. And so then we put these mini boot camps in between there. But we do have a lot of schools who are interested. And we would love, I think that's a piece that sort of, ag in the classroom doesn't really touch on that specific population. So, I think you can tell a third grader about careers, right? Yeah. But I think telling an 11th grader is, a little more relevant. So I think that piece is important, although we see essentially nobody applying after they graduate from school. But we have had people who have come back after a year and applied. So, some of it's just exposure at that level, right?
I like it. I think it's more of like the FFA groups or the ag classes or more of those teachers had access to you guys and got the word out. I think there would be probably more interest.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, kind of where we've been focusing our efforts is on ag teachers, because those are the ones who are really interested in what we're doing, right? And so we, again, because we're kind of connected into that group through our workforce specialists, I think we're reaching some. We've not done like an open call at this point because we've gotten so much interest just from, reaching out to a few schools. So, yeah.
The raw milk sampling, so they're at the farm, picked sample up yesterday at my farm. I'm participating. So, yeah. And I noticed like the pond water being the main water source. I'm one. Okay. The one in Western New York. I'm really curious to the results of that. Obviously pond water is a whole different profile than your well water or your city water. Yeah. So, very curious to where that lands.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and so I think I participated in one of your WebExes. So the funding that the Ag Department got to do some of the studying, has that money been used? And when you started that, you talked that you would have a lot of results in 3 to 4 weeks, and you probably articulated that on the WebExes, but it's continuing. So how's that being funded, I guess?
Yeah, so we are still going after more funding because the funding that we have right now, we're through, about a third of the work, I would say, that we had planned to do and actively. So one of the tricks, right, on this is we don't have a BSL-3 lab in Sioux Falls. So we have to work with the select agent lab in the vet school. Those people are not food scientists. They don't know how to make cheese, right? So they're virologists. They're like animal veterinarians and stuff. So Sam has had the unique challenge of teaching a bunch of vets how to make cheese over the last couple of weeks, which has been interesting. We do have an incoming PhD student who is select agent approved already and is a food scientist. So we're hoping that pairing those, people who are really efficient at working with viruses with someone who knows more on the food science side will be a good combination, because that's a limitation right now. But we are working through that pretty fast on the, sort of timeline of research. We're getting through that. And in fact, we have a call tomorrow to review some data, some new data that we have off of that.
Carl, anything?
Do you think that there's going to be an effective seasonality on the bacterial metagenomics and adult samples, water samples?
Yes, I do. And in fact, we're going to add some more sampling on the raw milk to capture that seasonality impact, and we're doing the metagenomics on the water too. So we'll have a seasonality on that. I absolutely think, especially in sources that are coming from ponds or lakes, that we'll see huge differences in the population. Yeah, definitely. So I think, ultimately when we're sort of putting together recommendations and best practices for, what to test for, it could be a seasonal thing, right? Like in the winter, here's what you need to focus on. In the summer, here's what you need to focus on. Yeah, for sure.
Judy?
Jason kind of hit, I was gonna ask on the water, we're one of your participants also. So
Yeah.
just to see, you know, when that comes back, it's gonna be interesting to see.
Yeah, absolutely. So good news, we did find any listeria in the beta testing that we did. You know, the metagenomics will give us some better, overall prevalence of different, potential pathogens. But we were shocked to see how many, like, I mean, maybe not shocked. We were expecting Pseudomonas, right? There's a lot of Pseudomonas in that water. So, and we took from multiple points. So we took from as close to the source we could get it and as close to the point of use as we could get it. And both of those have really elevated levels. So, yeah, I think it's going to be really illuminating to see where we fall after that.
Thank you.
Dean?
I'm on the same topic with the water.
Sure.
Causality and effect. Where in the whole process is the effect coming from? Is it through the cow? Is it through equipment? Is it through, where is the effect? And is there a definite link?
Well,
Have you proven a definite link?
no, at this point, no, not yet. So the data that we'll have will show us what are the groups of organisms, how do they compare to what we're finding in the milk, right? And then sort of that transmission pathway, we can make some assumptions at this point. We'll ask questions when we go to the farm and to the processing facilities, but we can't prove causality. It's a study that looks at, you know, what are the key organisms that are there first, right? And then, you know, at some point we might be able to go back and say, okay, let's track this through to say, is it coming through the animals? Is it coming through the, you know, point of contact with the equipment? I suspect it's probably both, right? But first we need to know what are the organisms we're working with, because nobody's testing for those. And once we have that, then we can, you know, take a look at, we'll get some associations, but not causality.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you're looking for remediation probably.
Yep,
And
exactly.
in order to get there, you have to have cause effect and figure out.
Well, not necessarily in the first place, right? First, what we need to know, what should we be testing for in water? Should we be, because right now we're just doing coliform and E. coli, right? That's the regulatory requirement, or those two things. If we should be testing for Pseudomonas, let's start testing for it. Let's start looking for what's a reasonable threshold to assign to Pseudomonas in water supplies. And when you exceed that, then we know from the statistics we're more likely to see a problem in the raw milk, right? We don't have to necessarily know what the transmission pathway is for that, although that's going to be an important piece to follow up on to make sure that we understand that so that we can fix that, right?
Kim?
Enough said.
Nisha? Good. Thank you, Nicole.
Thanks so much, guys.
So, I think we probably better be very respectful for our commissioner and deputy commissioner. And commissioner, if you...
Perfect record now.
Well, you know, so I will say, I don't know if you would like me to start with you, commissioner, or your deputy commissioner, or, yeah, if you want to say a few words, or if, I think everybody, Katie introduced herself at our June meeting. This is, I asked her last night, I said, so how are we supposed to address you? And she says, Katie's fine. But we had a nice dinner last night. We appreciate the commissioner and deputy commissioner joining us and having some good fun and visits. So, commissioner, get us up to date, please.
Well, thank you. Good to be here. Sorry I was a little late. There's always a phone call that happens right at the perfect time. But this is fascinating. I love the conversations that happen in this room. Certainly, you know, thank you, Dr. Martin. That was a great presentation, a great project. Certainly timely for us to make sure. Yeah, I'd be happy to yield a little time here to Katie, Casey, Antonia, Chris. You got a great team working for you here. You really are. I love the collaborative feel about the BPO movement, the second market. It's good. I don't want to talk too much because you got a lot to do here today, but I think Katie and I were in Washington, was it 10 days ago, I think, meeting with FDA. Jim Jones said it was food. Casey was there last week, getting an award, working with NCIMS. that can't be much tighter than it is right now. There's daily calls going on between our state vets, NCIS, NASDA, all the other departments of agriculture. Same thing's happening on the health side, so Commissioner Belt and I are, Aaron knows what you hear, and this is what we're hearing. There's still a lot of things up in the air, but I think that the impact that New York has in those conversations is significant. Good to see, and the work here, having a level 3 lab at Cornell, having the project going on there is so important. I feel good about where we are and the expertise that we have in the room and what's going on in that regard. Obviously everyone's watching the news, there's chaos in the world. What's going on in Washington is pretty hard to keep some of these tracks straight. But certainly our connections with USDA and with FDA, although they're not 100% the way we'd like to see them, are really strong. Secretary of those experts. Meanwhile, in New York State, at a time of great uncertainty out in the world, there's a lot of confidence, I think, in the dairy industry. We were at your farm here a couple of weeks ago in June, and the optimism around the table was palpable. We were at Great Lakes Cheese, and that's a plant that'll blow your head in the creek in a hurry. It is just so massive, so well laid out, so organized. I have to say, on the workforce development piece, I remember at the beginning of that, I was so disappointed with such a great idea that really didn't come up with much. But I'd say it's 25 times better after visiting Great Lakes Cheese than it was the year before. Easily. I mean, it's still a small number. They were excited about it. And then at Belgioso, we were there when their tour came through. It's growing. I mean, it's the right answer. There's some tweaks that have to happen to that. And it's state money. The governor is very excited about that project. We've invested heavily in that project. We want to see that grow. And I think we will. Right? And that's going to take planting some seeds in schools at the right time. I was looking at Stratton High School being one of the high schools. That's a new, old FFA chapter. I was there to be a part of the new charter for that school a couple of years ago. And out here they are on the list already, interested in having a boot camp. That's a pretty good time. That's really good stuff. Great Lakes Cheese, Aerolite, visiting your farm, visiting some of the farms we have in the last couple of months. Yesterday, Katie and I were at the Wells ice cream plant in Dunkirk with the governor. I don't know how much milk they really use. I mean, they're a novelty, so they're using components. But they got 380 jobs now. We're looking at 270 jobs. And we've got 8 other processing facilities that are interested in growing in New York City right now that we're talking to. And that that feels really good to me. When we started the Milk Marketing Advisory Council back up again, got that operating, and the dairy think tank, the number one concern from the dairy industry was processing capacity. And coming out of COVID, kind of cemented that, that is a real, so see the remedies coming for the problems that we were facing at that time. It's pretty great. Throwing in manure expo. I'm not going to touch any of the funds that will go along with that. But there was over 800 people there the day I was there.
Yeah, there was 1,500 altogether.
1,500. That's impressive. That's a sign for me that the industry is passionate about what they do, interested in growing, interested in doing a better job. Those are all very high benchmarks all the way along. That feels pretty good. I don't want to take too much time here, but I do want to say that between the Milk Marketing Advisory Council, between the dairy think tank, between the workforce development work that's going on, not just here, but with has the, across the Dairy Innovation Center, the progress that we've made in getting recognition there that New York is here also, funding is now flowing to New York State. And then what you're doing. Maybe just because we're listening to Nicole this morning, but lots of promotion ideas that you guys deal with. I think you do a great job. People in the back of the room here, they're going to present to you doing a great job. I just don't want to forget that research piece. That's so important. We've got some great assets here in this state. One of them is that research piece. I don't have to remind anybody that their life, I grew up at Cornell and left somewhere else, and now we're back in New York. But I just would underscore that a lot of resources here. I'll stop there. You're doing a great job. I'm going to get yanked out of here.
Yeah, I know you are.
3 other places.
So I know I've asked you before, and so how's the governor feel about our dairy industry and our dairy farmers, and supportive?
Probably macro, yes. So it was great to see her yesterday. That's her neighborhood. She grew up in Hamburg. She's a 4-H kid from Hamburg. Very passionate. She was excited to be there. There was ice cream. I don't have to explain to her the importance of the dairy industry at all. She gets it. When we had the tornadoes run through, Katie and I were going out to visit with the cheese manufacturers. We went to see the farms that were hit by the tornadoes. There were people she went to high school with. So direct involvement, direct passion there. And we talked about that yesterday. You don't have to worry about whether or not she supports dairy. Look at our budget in New York this year. There's a lot of funding in there for dairy and for the work that's being done with dairy and the North. I'm pretty excited about that. I do think we've got a lot more work to do. We'll need your collective leads and help to get this across the finish line. The climate stuff is still hanging out there. We had the Climate Action Council. I sat on the council, represented Ag and Forestry. We have a great work plan, probably the best work plan on the council. But it's been stalled for a variety of reasons over the last year in the work on how do we translate that into our dairy farms where we have, and all our farms, where we have the ability to sponsor carbon, decrease methane emissions, greenhouse gases, et cetera. The actual do has been delayed for a variety of some national reasons, some political reasons. And I'm excited to get to work on that. And actually, just before coming here, Maureen Harris and I had a conversation. Pulling together that group again to start getting into brass tacks. We've got to get off the back here and get some stuff happening for the government and for the industry. Because agriculture is part of the industry. We're not just make things look bad, we actually can make things better. I think those opportunities, we need to see them translate into real opportunities on our farms. We can make energy, we can reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Some of that funding that we got in the budget last year is going to help this research going on in Cornell regarding methane emissions and their fermentation, et cetera. Those are real things that need to happen. Got a call from an outreach very soon with DEC tomorrow. We were a benefit of the Climate Smart Commodities grant, USDA, and it's Cornell, and soon ESF, Megan Marcus, and DEC working on that. Okay, let's start doing stuff. I have to say that USDA has been relegated great at throwing money at a project. Details follow. That is now, it's time to get details done. So we're ready to go. We're excited about this.
Thank you. Katie, you want to say something?
Well, that's what I was going to come back to follow. I just really want to say thank you again for welcoming me so quickly into the DPO board. And I feel so happy to finally see everyone in person, not through a Zoom screen. Really looking forward to the discussion today, and, you know, for those that I haven't gotten the opportunity to say this yet too, you know, for me, dairy is a very industry to get behind, support, and advocate. So I do have an open door policy. If you have questions, if you have concerns, please feel free to pick up the phone, you know, send me an email or just stop by and we can talk about it. But I do really look forward to today, and I know that we are on a tight schedule, so I will get back the rest of my time.
Thank you. We greatly appreciate both of you being able to join us today and share, and we look forward to seeing you again very soon, because I know the commissioner will jump out quick. So.
Yeah, take advantage of our team here, you know. Casey's the current head of SCIMS. That's a pretty cool place to be for us in New York. Yeah, take advantage of that, you know, pester him with questions. And,
We usually do.
We like to be
out of it.
he loves questions. And same deal. But it's a unique position for him to be in, and have that connection with all the other states and know what's going on there. So we tag team when it comes to FDA quite a lot. With state departments of ag, we take on FDA, when we take on some of those bigger entities, we take full advantage of that. And I don't know if Antonio, I got to brag about, you know, we visited the archives as part of Dairy Month. You know, when New York State has archives, we know that. You actually go there, holy crap. I mean, it's a secure room, you know, pretty much starts going in there.
Yes.
And there's documents in there going back to when the Dutch, you know, first came to New York. But they dug up a bunch of dairy information for us. Antonio wrote an awesome article for their magazine. I love the cover. What was the year that cover was up? What year it is right here?
Very good.
Get a copy of it. We'll get it for you.
We'll have copies at the Dairy Day breakfast.
Oh.
You can send electronic copies to everybody here if you're unable
You
to
look
make
at the
it.
picture of this young lady, and I forget what year this was in.
Oh, 40? 50?
It was like in the 40s.
Yep.
And here's a young farm kid.
Mm-hmm.
She's holding a glass of milk, safe milk. I mean, that was awesome right there by itself. She looked at her hands. I love farmers' hands. I love workers' hands. You know, they're like road maps. You look at her hands, you get a chance to look at their farm hands. So she's holding a crystal white, you know, glass of milk with those farm hands. And it's a great article. And Tony wrote that article for him. So that was pretty cool stuff. Yeah.
Well, I will tell you that everybody's been very helpful. Heather, and Casey, and Tony, and Chris. It's been great to work with them, and it's easy. They make it easy for us, I feel. So,
Thanks
we
for
appreciate
that, because it takes time and energy. It absorbs a lot of gray matter along the way.
That it does.
During one of the breaks, I'll throw that up there. So that's us at the archives. I'll put it on my laptop. But that's the letter with FDR's handwritten note on the bottom, creating it was at the health department at the time, the division or Bureau of Milk Control in March of 1930. And so very cool trip down memory lane at the archives. I didn't even know as a New Yorker and taxpayer, all that was there. Super cool experience. And there's a ton in there about the dairy industry. There's I can't wait for Roger Thomas, the milk bottle guy, to see the milk bottle article in there when they were getting into like sanitary designs of crazy milk bottle, not the traditional milk bottle you think of. Strange glass things, clamps on them, wild. Yeah, but that is a treasure right there for sure.
All right, well, good. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you all.
So we will move on. Dr. Alkane. Good morning. You and your team are up.
We got the crew here.
You got the crew here.
All right, we're gonna run through the first set of projects. I'm gonna kick us off, go over my project, and then we'll have everyone else come up. I don't know if you wanna ask questions after each PI or at the end.
I'm open.
Are we gonna jump in if we got a quick one while we're going, or hey, you wanna wait till it's, or we can?
Well, I don't know if we want, I think we should do it after each presentation. If there's a quick question or something like that, and then if there is others at the end, is everybody okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
All right, just kick off with just, overview, right, the Northeast Area Foods Research Center. Our goal is to, enhance the quality, safety, and sustainability of dairy products, support the dairy workforce, and, really support entrepreneurship and innovation in the dairy space. So one of my, key projects, is going to be talking about tech transfer, but here is our team that does dairy research, the group in the back, and I'll jump into the tech transfer work here. So again, the idea here on the tech transfer project is taking the knowledge and technologies that we've developed through the research here, supported by the DPO and other organizations, and getting it in industry, so they're aware of it, it's implemented, and things like that. So one of our major activities, our big one, is our annual meeting that we hold now in the spring. We held that this year. We had 78 attendees representing over 21 different dairy companies and associations. And the focus this year was really kind of highlighting the research and innovation going on from farm to consumer related to sustainability. So we had people visiting some of the animal science thing and some of the sustainability research that was going on farm, things done by Joe McFadden and the group there, the dairy foods research that we do, and then some of the consumer work. So it was a really great meeting. I think one of the things that I want us to think about, maybe not for today, but going into the fall, we had opened it up to dairy farmers here in New York State. So we had a couple people register, not everybody could make it, and how might we be able to help, drive that engagement for next year's, Had a really good engagement from industry, and some new organizations that came in, but I'd also like to add it as an opportunity, so that dairy farmers here in New York really understand some of the work that you're supporting and what it means, for the industry. Another big thing that kind of tech transfer, knowledge transfer that we did, and Nicole alluded to some, was avian influenza, that really changed the trajectory of my work this spring and summer. We had a lot of outreach with industry, whether it was one-on-one phone calls with dairy companies addressing their concerns within their supply chain, the office hours that Nicole mentioned. 2 weeks ago, I was at the American Cheese Society. They had their annual conference here in Buffalo, and I gave a hot topics discussion on avian influenza and the impact for raw milk cheesemakers and things like that. That was a very big concern for that group. Not just for industry, but also we've done a lot of work for public outreach. So also during that time, we did interviews with a number of major news publications, CNN, NPR, New York Times, Wall Street Journal, to give, sound science information to assure the public around the safety of the dairy products that we produce. And then we've also then, with the help of New York State Ag and Markets, gotten some funding to do research, to address some of the questions that remain around avian influenza, particularly around raw milk cheeses. What does aging do to that, the virus? Does it drop out or not? Also some thermization studies on some of the heat treatments that raw milk cheesemakers use that aren't quite pasteurization, but are used to reduce the risk. Are those sufficient, to help control that? And then we might be having some other deeper dive funding coming in, not yet ready to announce, but all this has kind of helped build that chain of response for the industry and the system. So we've been moving along with that. Some of the funds that have gone to support this haven't quite hit the project yet, but this is a continuous thing that's moving on. And then on my own personal space, we are doing some meetings. We have some NDAs signed with some companies that are interested on some of the acid way work that we have been doing, research you funded previously. And so now looking at how do we actually get that implemented at some larger scale companies. So crossing our fingers that ends up making its way to commercialization again. So that is the tech transfer. Now the first of my, kind of formal research projects was the Leaven Dairy project, which was looking at using a yeast that produced lactic acid instead of bacteria that use lactic acid, that produce lactic acid, and typically used in our dairy products, and seeing what type of dairy products we could produce, and how did those yeast strains behave. And so it was presented on this. This is the second year of the project, so it's coming on an end. So we've really been focused on the product development phase of things. So I think last time I was here, I brought some cheese, some very early cheese for you to try. Those cheeses finally aged 3 months. They were a Gouda-style cheese. And then we put them into, you can see how well the flavor was in the live. We then put that into sensory testing. And one of the cool things that, we got back is that, incorporating the yeast into these cheeses adds these really fruity flavors and fruity aromas and these yeasty and bready notes that kind of expand the complexity of the cheese. And that was the feedback from the consumers. And when we compared it to our bacteria-only produced Gouda cheese, there was no significant difference in liking from consumers. So you think, right, this is a new style, right, then of producing these types of cheeses that would be open for commercialization. And then right now we're doing work at looking at the whey that's left over now from this process, because it's a different type of whey than what we've had from the traditional cheese making process. And there may be some new applications and products that we can also valorize from that. So that analysis is going on, and once we get that data in, we'll be finishing up the papers. So that's on the cheese front. The other area was looking at the types of yogurts that we could produce by acidifying with these yeasts. And so we also looked at incorporating some yeast that produce tropical fruit flavors into this, so passion fruit and pineapple. And so this is just some of the characterization work of those different yeast strains and how they impacted the fermentation, and then what the final yogurt looked like. We've also put this into sensory testing and gotten some interesting feedback. I think one of the things when you put it in front of consumers, this type of yogurt is a little bit effervescent because it has CO2 from the yeast. So not everybody was expecting that on the sensory test. So I think we have to do a little bit more managing or talking about the product attributes before putting it in front of people. But the flavors are really cool, especially the way that these flavor notes came through. So there is some more opportunities here for development. So we've done a lot of work on this. The student who's driven most of this work, Paola, she presented at ADSA this summer, and she won second place in the graduate student competition. So that was great, and she is going to be leading us to go start working for a cheese company as one of their R&D leads. So again, when she joined my lab, she was interested in fermentation, didn't really know that much about dairy, and through this project, right, she gained a love for cheese making, and that's where she wanted to go after she was done, and now she's got a great job. So again, not just, building research and innovation in dairy, but really this project is to continue the pipeline of dairy researchers, right, and workforce for the dairy industry. So that's been exciting, and it's been a really fun project. The second project, research project I had was looking at enzymes to help us improve the quality and safety of dairy products. And so what we were looking at was this enzyme called lactose oxidase that produces hydrogen peroxide, which is the antimicrobial off of lactose. And we were entrapping in these yeast so we could control its contact time with the milk, and then evaluating how effective was that at controlling spoilage organisms like Pseudomonas in milk, which is a common cause of spoilage, and then how does it control listeria. And so we've been doing a lot of that work on the spoilage reduction. You can see that the bees are very effective at after we treat the milk, knocking down the Pseudomonas and keeping it low without severely impacting the pH over time. And then we've done the work with listeria, and these are what the bees look like. And what we've shown is that after treatment with the bees, we kind of have a listeria static, a bacterial static effect, where the listeria subsequently doesn't grow out over time. So it doesn't knock the listeria down as much as the Pseudomonas, but it prevents it from growing out, so that's still a helpful control. And now our next steps are taking this technology and applying it to actual raw milk, and then seeing what happens when we treat raw milk with these bees, and then the impact on subsequent cheese making, and that will wrap us up for this project. So moving along quite well. And then our last project is in-package pasteurization of milk. So traditionally, we pasteurize the milk first, and then we put it in the containers. And we have a lot of work looking at post-pasteurization contaminations. The question was, well, what happens if we put the milk in a bottle, and then we do the pasteurization, which is something we do in other beverage categories, right? What is the impact on the flavor of the milk, and then the impact on the quality of the milk? And so that's what we're looking at to do here. We've had a little bit of a challenge with this project where my technician on leave last year, and they came back in January, and we're going to start up on this project. And by the middle of February, they decided their reason for leave was a reason to leave for good. And so they left. It was a personal choice, and I think it's a good choice for them. But I've been now looking for a technician. First round of interviews didn't result in some great options. I just found somebody to come in and take over the project, and so then we'll start moving forward on that. There's been a little bit of a delay in that, and with some of my energies focused on avian influenza, it's been a little bit of a management thing, but we'll be starting back on track in August. And so those are my 3 projects and the tech transfer that's going on there. So questions there? Questions for
Sam? Super.
All right, great.
Thank you, Sam.
How's the Norway going?
We are talking to some international companies about possibilities for that.
Fantastic.
So we're crossing our fingers. I actually have a trip to Korea at the start of September. Hope to see what might happen. So we'll see.
Well, that's great. Congratulations. Hi, Carmen.
Good morning.
Did I see you name that yeast product was Yoda?
It was Yoda, yes. Yeast meets Buddha, Yoda.
Yeah. Small print.
Good morning, great to see everyone. Great that I'm not last this time. So a little bit more time, but I'll try to move a little fast here. I want to give you an update on 7 my joint projects on microwave vacuum drying of yogurt to create a shelf-stable product with live on aquaculture. That was the goal. The motivation for this project was to address the market need for yogurt products, but also to create something with long shelf life and that retains probiotic properties. The objectives of the project over the 2 years, the first year was focused on developing and optimizing the process for drying the yogurt, and the second year was more characterization, shelf life, and also trying to create the pathway to translation in real-life applications, particularly on the reconstitution. We make the powder, but how can it be used as the point of use? So I'm gonna just quickly give you some updates. If you have copies of the slides, you'll see more data, but just the main highlights. This is how we did the work. We actually worked with plain yogurt, kefir, and strained yogurt. And we talked about, details of the methodology in the past. Some quick things for you here. Typically, we saw this trend in Greek yogurt because it also had, lower moisture content, dried faster than kefir, and then yogurt was last. But very important is that we did get a good quality, just slight change in color, very unnoticeable by the naked eye, but just a little bit instrumentally, we could see a little bit of yellowish tint of the powder. And looking at the different process conditions, if you have higher vacuum, it needs faster drying. That's not a surprise for us, but I want to bring your attention to this one here, this bullet point. You might ask, how long does it take to dry it? It's a little over 1 hour and a half, 2 hours for full drying. If you compare it with freeze drying, it's a lot shorter. If you compare it with other drying methods, it's slower, but it gives you a nutrients because the water activity is very low. The moisture content that's residual there is very low. And the temperature was below 50 degrees centigrade at all times. So that means that the quality of the product was quite high. We looked at various quality parameters. How do you retain the water holding capacity of the product after it's reconstituted with water? So you make the powder, and then whenever you're ready to use it, you add water back. Does it hydrate well? Does it have good solubility? And we were happy to get very good results on that, very close to the original product. Of course, there is a slight decrease because it's still a drying process, but not significant. And very importantly, the postdoc who worked on this found out that their contribution is actually quite easy, and she used a household blender for that. So that's great news for the user, for the regular user. But as we'll discuss, there are plans to look at the contribution that is more relevant to larger users. The product, just showing you an image, of course you can't get an idea of the texture or smell or anything like that, but if you trust us, I'll tell you that the texture and appearance of the product, this is a reconstituted from powder, that's the unprocessed product. They look very, very similar. Probably if you tasted them side by side, you might see a slight difference, but if you taste that in isolation, you wouldn't tell that it's been dried before. So that's great news. We tried also something else. You've asked before, well, can we use this to maybe dehydrate cultures themselves? And one way for us to test that was also to inoculate yogurt milk and dry that with the inoculum and then try to ferment the powders, reconstitute the powder and try and ferment. It works, so you retain activity, but the reality is that it's going to take a lot longer to ferment that product, to bring it to the pH that you normally would expect for yogurt. So it's doable, it's not practical. You do lose a little bit of activity, and actually the activity is regained, but they are more sluggish because you expose those bacteria to those drying conditions. So probably not the best way to use that, but we tested that anyway. We're in the midst of a shelf life study right now, but the data that we got to date shows that the product quality maintains very well. The microbial activity is retained with slight a bit, but not significant. And we're excited about the possibilities that this type of product would bring. In terms of the completion, year one is completed. For objective 2, really we're on autopilot here because we have to generate still some shelf life data, but really there isn't a ton of work left. And then the third one is to look at reconstitution solutions for the yogurt powder at large scale. We did get that inline blender, and that's why it's a 10% completion because we have it in place in the new postdoc because we have a turnover of personnel always in the university setting. My current postdoc is leaving. We are hiring the new one. That person is going to help finish this. I think this completion of 50% is just for this year, and it's conservative estimate. I think we're further along than that, but time-wise, we still need to do some work. We did get talked about this both with the Northeast Area Research Center, the STEM talked about very well received presentation at the ABSA meeting recently, and we have actually right now 2 papers in draft, and we're going to publish them soon, hopefully. With that, I want to thank you for funding as always, but want to also talk about something that's outside of this project, an update from Cornell, especially since the commissioner is here. We're always trying to multiply the dairy dollars. We're always trying to use the data that we generate with your support and bring it further and bring this to the industry. So right now I'm part of an initiative, and it's a little early, and you never know with these requests for funding how they will end up, but a team that's led by Judy Suarez, I think the commissioner knows her well, is putting together an NSF, National Science Foundation proposal for $10 million, to get funding to support the dairy industry in New York State, to create an engine for economic growth and workforce development. We were the one proposal that was selected from Cornell, so that shows you the importance at the university level that the dairy sector was given, because there were others that were competing from engineering in other places. So we were the ones who advanced. We submitted the letter of intent, and a week from today, the pre-proposal is due, and if we're successful, we'll move to the full proposal round. Chances, of course, it's national, and it's something that we'll have to work towards, but several of us from animal science, from engineering, from business, but Martin and Sam and I are part of this team. I'm a co-PI, they're collaborators, and we're building on the work that you funded. We're trying to take these technologies and help translate them into industry, and that effort, if it's successful, will also help with workforce development and economic development. So we're always trying. Doing our best to be successful. We don't know yet, but I wanted to bring that to your attention and thank for your support on this. And you might hear from Julie for better support or something. So
Great.
Thank you.
Great.
Is that a federal grant?
Yes.
The yogurt that you utilize in the drying, that's just a stupid question. Do you work with certain companies to get that yogurt, or do you make your own yogurt?
We actually, that's the company, the Alpine company. We make
It's the company.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know if you went and grabbed some Chobani yogurt, or somebody else's yogurt, and Just used so that it. you can control the cultures and understand everything that's going on.
Okay, no, that's fine. I know it's
We
silly.
started with commercial samples, but then to make sure that can make comparisons along the way and have the same, process all the time, we make them in-house.
Awesome. Any other questions for Carmen?
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much.
So I guess a quick introduction. My name is Robin Dando. This is the second year of a two-year project along with Dr. Julie Goddard, also in food science. So very briefly, the goal of the project is to take lactose, enzymatically convert to these things that we call rare sugars, and then evaluate with consumers and also through surveys and insights work how people actually respond to this. So this work divides up into the bioprocessing going on in Julie's lab and my own, where we're working on sensory results. So Julie presented at the last meeting, so I will focus mainly on sensory. Very quick update from her side though, she's in Copenhagen. So this is what we're looking at here, taking lactose and moving it along these pathways towards these highlighted molecules that we call rare sugars. They're desirable because they have a high relative sweetness value, so that compares to sucrose, how sweet they are, but then much lower value in terms of how many kilocalories we can pull out into our body per gram. So better tasting and better performance. So Julie's been working on synthesizing and stabilizing the enzymes, and this is the enzyme takes fructose and turns it into allulose. This last few years she's been working on categorizing how that performs in terms of its relative activity across different temperature and pH ranges. So taking that theoretical idea and making it work in the real world. So as a very short time, I'll dive right into the sensory. So our idealized and non-idealized blends of these rare sugars that we're able to produce, they perform exactly as well in large consumer tests of liking inside of yogurt as the sucrose sample, so that's great news. Sucralose performs around about as well, but it doesn't get to be labeled natural, which consumers are really into. The thing that does get to be labeled as natural is stevia. Performs pretty badly in these tests, and that's mainly due to the aftertaste that people associate with stevia. It has a very lingering taste as well. Now, the interesting bit is when we give people a little bit of information about what's in those samples
Life blend performs pretty well. Stevia people all of a sudden are a little bit more willing to eat this, purchase this sample, even though it doesn't perform very well in sensory because it's lower calorie. So, this is under the consumer insights work. It's a series of choice experiments where people are presented with a number of different products with a set of attributes, and they can choose which one that they will pick. The idea of this is if you're just asking what do you use to make your purchasing decisions, what you tell us might not be a real reflection of how you perform in the real world. So something like lactose, you might say it's really important for you to have a reduced lactose product, but then in the real world, maybe you just go for the thing that's the lowest price. So this kind of choice experiment pulls out the implicit what we see is in fact lactose isn't a big driver of purchase decisions, but the claim that we can put on the pack is really important, as is the we put flavor and price in there all the time also because those are important anchors. We know how important flavor and how important the price is. So specifics then on those claims, what we find is a number of different messages that we tested did reasonably well. We were excited about sweetened from dairy, but it didn't seem to perform that well as did made with fresh sugar because maybe people don't know what those things are. But interestingly, people really don't like when you tell them how many grams of sugar is in regular yogurt. They also really don't like this term sugar substitute. Maybe because there's not enough specificity there, but that was really interesting to us because we're ready to how we market it. And then if we learn in the ingredient list that it has an artificial sweetener, that's also a big turn-off. We actually don't mind that it has sucrose, but they really don't want to know how much. So dividing up into the older and the younger segments, there were a few interesting things with no diagnosis. But principally, the younger folks are less concerned about the ingredient list. Maybe they're a little bit more aware of what something like allulose is. And then on the pricing analysis, this is entirely expectancy. There is a little bit of tolerance for higher prices, but things that really knock that price down. You can see they'll pay $1.20 less for it when they learn how much sugar's in there, and it will give you a little bit more when so in terms of progress, on the bioprocessing side, Julia, this was exactly where she wanted to be at this point. We got a new ingredient supplier for our allulose, and I want to redo one of these experiments, which is why we're a little bit behind here, just because when I tasted it, it was not exactly how it should be, and we figured out that the allulose is not quite the same. So we pushed ahead with the insights work, which is almost done. See how it is. This average allulose work just right. So happy to take it.
Any questions?
Shelf life is exactly the same with the rare sugars, no detrimental.
Yeah, there would probably have to be a little bit of clarification there because microbes will obviously perform. They'll grow a little bit differently with a different food source, but allulose not. I wouldn't have said it would make things worse.
Out of that, some research not done for years, but some of the sugars like allulose actually, if they're added pre-fermentation, or some of that sugar actually they slow down microbial activity, so they might actually be improving the shelf life.
Good. Bye. You're up.
Very good. So, good morning, everyone. My project is on production of novel dairy-based nutritionally supplemented puffs for babies, elderly, and the general population. Products like this do not exist in the market today. What does exist is baby puff based on starch-based ingredients. So this is the first attempt to really introduce dairy ingredients into those formulations, but there were many challenges in converting that dairy-based product into puffs. We have overcome all those problems. Now we have a product, baby puffs, And these are self-disintegrating baby pups in the mouth. If you put it in the mouth, in 30 seconds, they will disintegrate. And we have looked at different kind of combinations of milk protein concentrate, 80% protein containing concentrates, and added to that some other ingredients to make it more balanced. For example, apple pommes or raspberry powder to make it a little bit more attractive in terms of nutritional quality. And elderly pups is the same way, except that we have started using lactose hydrolyzed skim milk powder. The skim milk powder is one of the byproducts of the dairy industry used, made every quite a bit, but it does not find use outside of the dairy industry. So this is an attempt to really use lactose hydrolyzed skim milk powder. And if you use lactose hydrolyzed skim milk powder, it gives you really two big advantages. Number one is 70% of the population is lactose intolerant. So therefore, there are not too many products made out of skim milk powder that are attractive. If you use lactose hydrolyzed skim milk powder, that problem disappears. The second thing is, if you use lactose hydrolyzed skim milk powder, then you see that we can convert that into something more attractive, such as galacto-oligosaccharides that are soluble dietary fibers, and they are very desirable in terms of probiotic activity. So we have used that lactose hydrolyzed skim milk powder for elderly pups. And now it turns out that baby pups, which really exist at their start date, that there is no such thing as elderly pups. And we have created these elderly pups that there's a lot of interest in that product. If you look at the composition, in terms of the composition, it's 7 grams of the serving size. We provide in the market stuff, provide about 6 grams of carbohydrate. Look at our product here, here 7 grams, we provide 4.6 grams protein, and there's no protein in the market baby plus available today. So it's a very attractive composition in terms of protein and the balance of protein and carbohydrate. The same thing if you look at elderly pups, what you see two important things. One is total, we have increased the dietary fiber. Milk protein is not a source of dietary fiber, but by adding hummus or raspberry powder, we have increased the dietary fiber. And also the second part that I was talking about is GOS, galacto-oligosaccharides. Now here, the process that you put something in and what comes out is better than what went in. We have in the process, we have converted lactose hydrolyzed powder into soluble dietary fiber. And then improve the nutritional quality of the product quite a bit. And now it has become like a novel and unique product that does not, that either of these two products do not exist in the marketplace today. And we have seen that interest in, especially in the elderly pups, that self-disintegrate in the mouth, and for people who have dysphagia or swallowing difficulty, this is a very attractive product. So, let me see what's happening. Okay, so if you look at the, just wiped out my slide. This is nutrition. We created a nutrition label, and it's two of the things that I highlighted before is the high protein content in both of these products. See, somehow something happened. The slide got wiped out. So the other thing was, in the process of measuring the self-disintegrating ability of this product, we looked at it, in terms of how to use quantitative measurements to predict the disintegration ability of the product. And we looked at it and figured out that really, if you look at how it is measured experimentally, it says, as you press the product in the mouth, the area changes. And if you take the variable area that's created during compression in the mouth, it relates better with the product characteristics that are important for disintegration. So we simulated this, and it turns out that if you take the force measured against deformation and simulate that in the lab, variable area image, how the area changes, the product is compressed to the mouth, and some of the product characteristics can be quantified more accurately by instrumental methods. So here is the variable and constant area. If you use variable area, we are invariably, in real terms, measuring Young's modulus that relates very well with the disintegration ability. So we have really developed a new method also for measuring the, disintegration ability, and you'll see all our product disintegrate in about 30 seconds. And we can now quantitatively measure Young's modulus and predict how the product will disintegrate in the mouth. So now we also look at the consumer acceptability of the product compared that to the market product. Is the hardness, how hard the product is, and you can see this is the market product, and those are our two products, and they are very comparable. In terms of this disintegration ability, market baby puffs and our puffs is performed about equally well, except the one that has got 10% apple promise is disintegrate, or acceptability is in terms of disintegration rate is a little bit lower. Sweetness, we have our products are consumed to be a little bit less sweet than the commercial product. This is a market baby puff based on starch. This acceptability in terms of disintegration and sweetness is a little bit better than our product. But we believe that honey was, so we investigated in terms of putting a little bit of honey for the elderly puffs, and for baby puffs, we think that it's advantageous to have a little bit lower sugar. So both of these products are acceptable, but we can increase the sweetness of the elderly puffs by adding a little bit of honey. So these are the two things we have done. We have started making products with a little bit added honey, 10% and 17% in the puffs that are designed for elderly people, and we are planning to do some sensory evaluation of that test. So the conclusion is milk protein based orally disintegrating puffs have textural characteristics and disintegration behavior very similar to what's available in the market, but a variable contact area predicts the disintegration ability more precisely. Fruit powders such as apple pomace and raspberry powder can be added to puffs to increase the fiber content. Addition of honey to the puffs increase sweetness in the elderly puffs, and we are going to evaluate that a little bit more in detail. So two pieces of information that's necessary is how to quantify the flavor encapsulation. Can we encapsulate a little bit of flavor of different kinds of flavor in the formulation itself, and also some conduction sensory analysis for the sweetness and flavor of those products. Once we have done this, I think this process will be complete. And there's a lot of interest. We get inquiry from companies like Abbott Lab, Glanbia Nutritional, Yili in China. They're all very more interested in elderly puffs than the baby puffs. Baby puffs are also of interest, but all of a sudden they find that elderly puffs is a little bit more attractive because no such product exists in the market today, not even a starch-based for elderly people. SIP products like Ensure and other liquid-like products are available. So can we replace this with these puffs? Because these are lightweight, shelf-stable, and do not require any special refrigeration, and you can take them anywhere without worrying about, refrigeration, etc. So with that, thank you for your support, and I'll be happy to answer your questions.
Dean, has any of this been published? Do you get any interest from industry?
Yes, so we have published some papers on this, and there's a lot of interest in it. How do you make it? The only thing that gets a little bit, of concern is the price. The starch sells for like 20 cents a pound. Milk protein sells for $3 a pound. So how do you compete that in terms of market price? It becomes more expensive. So that's why by adding a little bit of powder and pumice or fruit powder, we can bring the cost down a little bit. But it still is a little bit more expensive than starch-based puffs.
Have you patented the process?
We are in the process of doing that.
The process, okay.
So I shall know this and I don't, and I've got a room full of people that do. So calcium, right, does the calcium stay in the retent bay for the MPC, or does it go out with the permeate? So is it a source of calcium also?
So there's enough calcium in it that it stays with the milk protein. So that's one of the things to do is to make it, the biggest challenge that existed before was you could not make milk protein based pus that disintegrates in the mouth very quickly, in less than 30 seconds. The reason we can do that is because of the calcium that provides a bridge, and we have to chelate that calcium. So that's enzymes which we chelate it from. So that's what makes the protein disintegrate in the mouth in less than 30 seconds.
So it is a source then? I mean, clearly babies and elderly are, two groups that need a calcium source.
So calcium is still in there.
But is it absorbable?
Yeah, it is in nutritionally.
Is it allowed as that? Okay. Thank you.
So all these put together, I just looked it up, and it's called their Elevation Milk Powder. Did you see those? They're called protein puffs. I tried those. They're extremely expensive. They're like $4 for this tiny bag. It dissolves relatively fast, but the flavor was kind of funky. But they are milk protein. I wonder how if they're similar to your product and how well they actually sold, because I think they're already gone.
Yeah. So interesting. Our product is based on milk protein concentrate, which is very similar in composition of casein and whey protein in the same ratio as found in milk. Many of these products that they say there's milk protein in, they use casein. And, the major
You call it milk protein concentrate?
We call it milk protein concentrate. They generally say milk protein. And milk protein means, and if you read the label, I'm not sure of this particular one, but most of them that I know, they have casein and plus a little bit of whey protein. And then they mimic it and say it's milk protein. But they're not using milk protein concentrate that we are using.
Okay. Just a quick question on the cat. Is this correct that you've only spent $680 on it so far?
Yeah.
What's the hold up?
It got slowed down because our equipment sometimes, we have a big extruder that we use sometimes, we get delayed because some of the parts need to be replaced and all that. So we have been doing it because the equipment malfunction.
Okay. And you're still planning on being on towards the end of the year with it? Okay. Are there plans to do like a market research study? Robin and Julie's group have done that to put a price point on some of the claims and the value attributes of your product. Are there any goals to do that with this, knowing that it is a higher price point to see what consumers may be willing to pay for their
That's where I think we have to work with industry to figure out where it will fit and, what price is acceptable and all that, So we are working with industry to evaluate. But, in general, ballpark number is a little bit, quite a bit more expensive than the starch-based products. That we know for sure.
A quick question. So it kind of follows up a little bit what Julie asked about DMI research and patents. So if industry takes puff and wants to make it using your process, how do you arrive at a dollar amount to use that patent? How do you get that?
Yeah, we have to work with CTL, Cornell Technology for licensing and all that, to, about the patent, use of that patent. And then we have to look at the cost of ingredients and labor and all that. So ours is a little bit experimental, setup, but on larger scale production, the cost will be probably lower.
Okay, so it's very complicated to come out how you would be compensated to. How would Cornell be compensated to use the patent?
So that's what I said, CTL will negotiate that licensing.
Negotiate, okay.
Yeah. Okay. CTL is the branch at Cornell that handles IP issues. So all that is a patent, et cetera,
Okay.
we have to negotiate based on the market value and what it, what it will do to the market, some, due diligence analysis.
There are a few, projects I think that Sam's working on that he has dovetailed with USDA money, is that right? Is this being funded by anything else besides CPO money?
Some money we got from industry, but not mostly DPO money.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Barbano, you have a negative 30 seconds.
Well, have fun.
Thanks, Don.
Good morning. Thank you, Cy.
And given that introduction, I'm going to change the game plan a little bit here. We'll go to the second slide, and there's 4 projects. And what I'm going to do is just talk through the top line on the 4 and not go through the other slides, just to try to catch things up. So this dairy processing chemical analysis technology transfer. We've spent the base of what we're doing is really working with all these sort of growing processing facilities producing more and more shelf-stable beverages, their dairy, milk, and the milk-based beverages. And that ties into getting to them the results of research that we're doing in the other projects to pick apart this technology to understand how to get a better sensory quality and heat stability and long shelf life, but not have the sensory quality of the product go down so much or start having settling of protein, gelation of the product during the storage. So we're spending time with the processors. We've been to Burn Dairy, we've been to Cuba Milk, OATCA. We need to interface with Steuben. We're interfacing with Fairlife. All of those are getting into these shelf-stable beverages. So there's a lot of processing capability here in New York in that category. One of the things that they're following us is we've developed some laboratory scale equipment to screen at small volume the heat stability of these different formulations and the effect of different components. And I'll talk about that a little bit in the next part. The other thing in terms of working with industry, there's been 2 things. In March, I presented a paper at the New York State Cheesemakers Association annual meeting addressing this issue of what you guys are doing on the farms. And the fat and the protein, particularly the fat, is going up at a rate we've never seen before. And I tell the cheesemakers, you've always wished for higher components and better yield. Be careful what you wish for. Because what's happened is the fat is going up faster than the protein, and the ratio is getting out of whack. And where it causes the biggest challenge in terms of cheese manufacture is in aged cheddar cheese, because the standard of identity is very restrictive in terms of what ingredients you can use and what you can do in terms of process. So when I presented that talk here in the Northeast, I've been to the plants now. We've got to do something to adjust the ratio of fat to protein, because what is happening is the fat on a dry matter basis is going up, which is making it hard to keep the moisture up, which is going to change the flavor development during aging of cheddar cheese. And that's a key thing that we have in terms of aged cheddar in New York, Northeast, Upper Midwest, and the Far West. And all of a sudden, everybody is I was at a meeting in the ADSA meeting. A person from Land O'Lakes said, we got a copy of that paper you did at the cheesemakers meeting. We didn't know why we were having these problems, but this explained it. And so we need you to help us with strategies to counteract that in our cheese plants. So that's kind of an example. The other one, and the same thing that Sam and questions on that, and where we're trying to deal with this is I've been bringing together people, and the idea that we're working on is to try to take the same machine that we use in testing to determine somatic cell count and bacteria count, but give it the capability to, not specifically for the avian influenza, but for RNA virus level in the milk to screen. So we've been getting a lot of questions on that, but I'm working with equipment manufacturers, and we're trying to work on getting the right partner in terms of the chemistry, so that it would be interesting in, say, if we've got any co-op testing lab that's doing the payment testing, could we get a screen on every sample, just like a somatic cell count, for this to try to help producers? So that's, we've gotten a lot of questions, and that's something that we're focused on. I think one of the activation energy barriers there is any equipment company is going to say, you know, this has not been on our plan or radar screen, and this is going to take an infusion of dollars to get over the activation energy to make a test like that. But the nice thing is the hardware is already there. So that's something, that's part of this sort of technology transfer and responding to issues that weren't even on the radar screen when we wrote the proposal for this last year. The second one, source of variation in butter hardness, and this one is in the second year of the project. The first year we talked to you about de novo fatty acids and its influence on hardness. One of the things in the second year we've been working on is commercial products, and now we're starting to make some butter. And one of the things that we're finding that isn't very well called out in the literature is that as the butter is stored, it's actually getting harder. And we didn't realize how much that change actually happens. We're trying to understand it. It seems that when there's some temperature abuse, 80 to 82% of the stick of butter is fat. The rest is water. And what seems to happen with time is the water droplets are coming together to form larger areas of water, and the product gets harder. We're trying to understand what's going on there. So that's where we're at on this one with some commercial product, and we've been working with butter manufacturers on that. And here's where we are in terms of the budget. This is kind of the top line that's in the reports, the third reports we get. The third, okay, looks like it changed my number. The third project, the role of milk salts on heat stability. This is the second year. This is an interesting one where we're using this heat stability apparatus that we built, and we were looking at salts, but we got the idea maybe we should also change the lactose level and put in the full amount of lactose with different combinations of salt to see if there's an interaction between the two. And it's a good thing we did that because there is an interaction. And with temperature, one of the things that goes back to project number one, working with companies, is the variable amount of and rate at which you get settling of protein and aggregation of protein in these shelf-stable products that form a layer at the bottom of the container that's kind of like a pudding. And, you know, you don't want much of that because a big clump plops out when you're pouring it out. People get nervous about the product. What we're finding, the variability, even within a day, plants have variability in the amount of that forms in the product. And it seems that it's related to variation through the day. The way the process works is it injects steam into the milk. If the flow of the milk around the steam injector is a little slower, or there's something happening downstream that increases the back pressure, for that steam injector to open, to push the steam in, has to push harder. It means the pressure is higher. The temperature of the steam goes up with that increased pressure. And what we're finding is some of the cycling can raise the temperature of steam injection by 20 degrees Celsius. So it's kind of like one of those things that you see on the internet with a bus coming in a wall 30 miles an hour and it kind of crunches, and 50 miles an hour, things start flying, and 100 miles an hour, everything just blows up in the air. That's what's happening at the steam injector. And we're trying to understand that, and we're actually working with an alternate technology that turns it around to actually inject the milk into the steam so that we don't get those surges. And this technology's been around for 20 years. It's a little more expensive and difficult to control, but now when we're talking about the quality of product and shelf life and consumer acceptability, it's getting more attention, and we're kind of focusing a bit on that. But one of the things in this project is that the heat degradation of the lactose. So you heat milk, and you really heat it, it turns brown. Why is it turning brown? It's some of the thermal damage to lactose. It's changing the pH, and all of these factors interact in terms of that degradation of protein. And this is kind of where we came onto that in this project. And we're on track on this. We've published a couple of papers. We had a presentation on a related project at ADSA. Graduate student in my lab got third place in the poster competition with that. And this final project is in year one. This is the one where we're going back to the filtration process, and you take out permeates, so we're removing lactose, and we're going all the way from no lactose removal, regular milk, and we're removing the lactose, actually the MUN, milk, urea, nitrogen, and the soluble minerals, and looking at how the heat stability is changing. One of the things that we're getting a lot of pressure on, and it relates to these sweeteners and calories and everything, is can you just take all the lactose out of milk? And the answer is, yeah, I can. Filtration process, we can get it out. We could come back with some other ways of sweetening. But when we take all the lactose out and then start balancing the minerals, we get a lot more heat stability, and we don't get the aggregation. And now we're working on taking out certain proteins by filtration, the whey proteins, to reduce the amount of aggregation to keep the product really white and not have anything settle out. So that's what we are down that path on this fourth project. So this type of beverage product, and whether it's at normal protein level or at high protein level, 7 or 8%, is what we're working on. And I'll stop there and try to catch us up a little bit.
Thank you. Any questions for Dr. Bardano?
I'm curious, cheddar cheese, I thought the process they're using, most of them just standardized milk, skim. Can't you skim it down and get that high butter fat out? I thought that's what they normally do.
For aged cheddar, they don't do that.
Okay.
For making cheddar for processed cheese,
Okay.
for tacos, all that, they do, because they don't label it cheddar. Okay, it gets down to some labeling issues.
Okay.
So for aged cheddar, actually they have cream separators, but they're on the way. And they don't have any on the milk. So now they either got to buy a cream separator, or the other alternative is to take and bring in some skim, which they can add, but they could ultra-filter it in the plant. And I checked this out with Casey in terms of the regulations and the rules, and balance the protein to bring the protein up to match the fat. And then it's a win-win situation that they get higher pounds per man hour, they balance the ratio, they get the cheese right in terms of composition. So that's what we're working on.
So is it the mouthfeel or the overall taste that's being impacted?
Yeah, so what happens, the fat on dry matter basis goes up, the moisture goes down, the hardness stays about the same, but then with that lower moisture, if the salt, at the salting rate they're using goes up, then it slows down the micro in the water phase of the cheese, which is where the flavor development occurs.
So it's a milder cheese.
Yeah, it doesn't get you that, and that's what we get our plus for in terms of price. That's right. We don't want to lose that. Yeah.
The West hasn't had sharp cheese in years. No, I'm just kidding. But I grew up out west, and the Northeast had exceptionally sharp cheddar.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Barbano. Appreciate it greatly. Aim point. Oh, there they are.
Jersey's out west.
Hi, Danielle. How are you?
Good. This morning.
Hang on here. We got to get a little better reception. We're having some challenges here.
The volume's all the way up.
Can you hear me okay?
Not great, no. Hang on a second.
Okay.
You good?
Is that any
Yeah,
better?
the volume's all the way
Yep, okay.
I was gonna say, I can yell. I'm really good at projecting, but I don't know if that works on your end.
Danielle, is your audio connected through your webcam or through a phone?
Through my computer.
Okay.
Would it be better if I dialed in through my phone? I can try that.
It might be better.
Let me try. Let's see if this works. I'm going to mute. I'm trying to call in.
Can you hear me any better on my phone?
Yep, so Danielle, you'll just want to mute the audio on your computer now.
Okay. Is that better?
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool. I have not had to do this in a while, so good practice for everybody. Thanks for the time this morning. I will keep this brief in effort to keep you guys on track and move forward. So quick updates on our project. Obviously, we are working on sustainability as it relates to processing. So the overall framework for our report is one that touches on understanding the trends of dairy in New York State, moving down into sustainability as related to dairy, and then tying all those two pieces and components together with the appropriate intel and research in the impact on processing. To date, we have had 5 very good, engaging qualitative interviews with 5 different organizations. So we are hoping that we can get probably 2 more, specifically from either Hood or Fairlife or one from each. Initially, we were hoping to have the report complete and for you guys to review at this meeting, but because we've sort of struggled getting people to participate in the interview process, and those are such an important piece to what this report will be, we are pushing back the timeline to deliver probably till early September is the goal now. If there is anybody who has a contact at Fairlife or Hood that we already have not sort of tapped the shoulder for, that would be really helpful. The more folks we can get to participate and give us some good information, the stronger this report will be. Not that it's not in a good place as it is, but I think that we can make the insights a little more robust with some more folks that are actually in New York and familiar with some of the sustainability efforts coming down the pike, and has a good handle on what's already happening at some of the plants in New York. other than that, I think I'm happy to answer questions. I'd much rather have this be a more back and forth, but happy to answer anything you guys have.
How was Jason and Julie with their advisory board?
Very good, super helpful. And Jason's been really good communicating with me through this whole process, and we've been sort of bouncing ideas back and forth to make sure that this report is going to be actionable and insightful for you all. So I've appreciated their leadership quite a bit.
Yeah, so I had spoken with Danielle, I think twice, outside of the meeting, and spoke with you guys about that, to push this, to try to get more participation and make it a better result. And and I appreciate, the patience on trying to get it right and get it as good as it can be.
Well, and it was kind of a learning curve, and I mean, this was all new for everybody, right? I mean,
Yeah.
And it's, from the processing side of upstate, it's been slow. We've been slow to get, to get it done, or to get to them and respond. And so hopefully we can get, perhaps Hood I'd like to participate as well and make it more robust. So, Sheila?
Yeah, I think it's going well. I think Jason's definitely had some more conversations than I have. I guess my question is, are you going to do anything else to use for information for this report other than the interviews, or is that I know that's probably...
And it's hard for me to hear on my phone because it only gets so loud, so I just want to make sure that I heard the question. Are we doing anything more for the report outside of the interviews? And if that is the question, the answer is absolutely yes. So our economist and one of our research analysts have been working on this diligently for the last few months, understanding some of the trends, sort of digging deeper on the insights that have come out of our conversations in those in-depth interviews. So at this point, I mean, we have a very good foundation for the report. I think having more people participate in speaking with us, to Jason's point, only makes the insights more robust and makes it a little bit, obviously we're not going to get to a quantitative level, but the more folks we have participate, the more rock solid the findings and some of the verbatims will be. So, this is a full intelligence and qualitative report. So we've, like I said, our economist and research team has been working on this pretty closely.
Okay, that's good to know. Thank you. Jason probably knew that. I just wasn't up to speed on that. So thank you.
Yeah. So the whole sweep and scope. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just asking if the audio is better for Julie. We moved the microphone up front.
Okay.
She can't hear you.
Can you hear me? I was going to say, I'll hold my phone right here. Can you hear me?
No, Casey moved the microphone down here by Julie and I, so he's just wondering if that was better for you to hear.
Yes, I can hear you better now, so it might just be my phone too. It's weird to be looking at the computer screen but talking into my phone. So, no, the robustness of this report will be great, and then the whole goal is to boil it down to a one-page summary that then can be used for educational purposes as you guys work through, hopefully, the next legislative calendar. So when we get to that point, after you all have the report, I would love to have some input on making sure that the insights we put on that one-pager are going to be the ones that put you guys in a good position to use as an educational tool. So that's my goal at this point, is to get you guys the report end of August, early September, to review and get feedback on, and then we'll have a fully designed legislative paper or not legislative paper, but a one-page paper to use for educational purposes.
I think that would be good, Jason. We should talk to see if that might be a good time to have another.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Yes, advisory group together. So, yeah, I think that would be good, Danielle.
Okay. Well, I can reach out to you, Jason. We can sort of be in contact as we move through the next few weeks and pinpoint a day that works well for holding that meeting, and we can go from there.
Well, yeah, I guess, it may take two to maybe hold a meeting, then to get the documents and we can look at it, and then have another follow up. Yes.
Okay.
That'd be great.
You let me know what works for you guys, and I can adjust our schedules on our end as needed, so.
Okay.
Okay?
Any other questions?
So can you give us, sorry, I mean, I know that Julie and Jason have had a lot of contact, but the rest of us kind of have not, I would say. Is that fair? Could you give us some examples of some of the questions or some of the conversations that you're having with these groups that you're talking to, just so we have a better idea of what you're actually working on?
Yeah, so the themes around the interviews have been understanding sustainability and sustainability efforts that the processors have made, what that looks like as an impact on business, what their plans are for the future, what sort of regulations they're expecting to come down the pike. So the top line takeaways from those interviews have been the following general themes. I had our analyst work this up, actually. There's a significant focus on integrating more sustainable practices within the dairy industry while trying to manage and balance economic pressures and technological limitations. Strategic growth opportunities lie in addressing environmental regulations, enhancing technological adoption, and navigating markets. And I think the biggest takeaway that we've heard from all 5 participants is that there is a need for collaboration and support from the government in order to implement and advance these sustainability initiatives. So, you know, I was talking with our research analyst, Intel analyst, earlier this week about the project, and one of the conclusions is, you know, as these regulations become real and we have to implement them, is there going to be a support from the state to do that? I don't know that we want the report to come out and call and ask for that, so that's something that I would want feedback from the committee on. You know, we can make very strong, robust recommendations. I just don't want to get out over our skis, I guess, in positioning that.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you, Danielle. Greatly appreciate it. We look forward to it. And Jason and Julie will keep working.
I appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All righty. Next. How are you? You ready to rock and roll?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So good morning, everyone. We are WOW Media. My name is Amanda Galley, and this is Dominic Ciccone. We've been the primary principal managers on the project for WOW Media. And as you can see, we have executed, or are in the middle of executing, a retail media network partnership with Kinney Drugs. And if you are from New York State or Central New York or Northern New York, or the state of Vermont, you're probably familiar with Kinney Drugs. They're your local drugstore. They are an employee-owned, and they are a partner of WOW Media. So the goal of this project, just to kind of set the stage for everyone, is, and the retail media network, is to promote dairy products inside the Kinney Drug Store and also outside using a media plan that is associated with their retail media network. And then secondarily, also, well, probably primarily, promote sales within the store. And then hopefully we get a secondary effect of that promotion, which promotes sales in New York State, Central New York, Northern New York, and Vermont. So we are very excited because if everybody remembers, there was a very big conversation around creative and how we would build creative for this project. So we're really looking forward to showcasing what the team has been working on. The Kinney Drugs has an internal graphic design and creative team that has worked with our team to build several elements for this campaign, which we'll show to you over the next few minutes. But first of all, the big intro here is for Rosemary the Dairy Fairy.
if you've been in skinny drugs starting about middle, like end of March or so, early April, you would see Rosemary. She's our positioning for dairy sales and promoting dairy at Kinney. There'll be more to come with her, but we're going to show you all of the elements surrounding Rosemary, the dairy fairy. We're giving her personality. She talks about dairy products, the benefits of consuming dairy and shopping for dairy within Kinney Drugs. So let's get started.
I would like to point out the black and white spots on Rosemary's dress. Again, a very interesting way to display her.
She also says bibbidi bobbidi.
Bibbidi bobbidi move. So I'm going to take you through a bunch of the tactics that we are doing as part of this retail media network. First of all, Kinney has a circular. So 1 week per quarter, there is a dairy ad that appears in this digital circular. They don't do paper circulars any longer. They're mostly educational. So this treatment here was a very early on one in February and March, tying into Kinney's Love Local. And then we integrated in Rosemary the Dairy Fairy with a Did You Know type of ad. These ads on average receive about 16,000 visitors per month to their website. And like I said, we run a dairy ad 1 week per quarter.
And that's a half page.
Right, half page, yep. The second part is the Ask Your Kinney Pharmacist broadcast TV segment. You receive 2 of these as part of the partnership. The first one aired in June. This example aired in Burlington, Vermont. We also had a similar one that aired in Watertown, New York. I'm going to see if I can get this to play. Nope. Could you click on that, see if it runs?
Welcome back to Ask Your Kinney Pharmacist. I'm Haley, and today we have a question that came in from our Waterbury location. What is osteoporosis? Well, osteoporosis is a bone disease that develops when bone mineral density and mass decrease. The disease can lead to a decrease in bone strength and can increase the risk of fractures. It is often known as the silent disease because often there are no signs or symptoms. Osteoporosis-related breaks most commonly occur in the hips,
You'll be able to hear the message about dairy.
wrist, or spine, and they increase with age. A nutritious diet rich in calcium and vitamin D can help maintain good bone health and prevent osteoporosis. Dairy products like milk, yogurt, and cheese are rich in calcium and vitamin D. Those diagnosed with osteoporosis may be prescribed medication to prevent fractures. And questions about osteoporosis, stop in and ask your Kinney Pharmacist.
That was one of the segments that ran in June. We have another one coming up later on in the year.
Welcome back to...
Correct, yes. And then every week they get, Kinney Drugs sends out a sneak peek email to all of their subscribers. And as you can see, the Dairy Fairy made a couple of appearances. Over 500,000 emails were sent out over the course of this campaign so far, with an open rate just short of 25%, which is right along the standard amongst the industry, and then over 5,400 clicks. Which would click over to the Kinney Drugs website. So, I'm displaying that so you guys understand the engagement behind it. There are people that are viewing this, they're clicking on it, they're looking for more information, so they're more of an engaged user. Homepage banner, 1 week per month, on the very homepage of KinneyDrugs.com. There is an ad that will run, again, Rosemary the Dairy Fairy. And it runs about 1 week per month. They get about 300,000 visitors to their homepage each month. So we're going to assume that 75,000 or so impressions are delivered on a monthly basis on the homepage. On top of the Kinney Drugs website, we also run multiple media campaigns across the internet targeting the geographical locations of all Kinney Drugs stores. This is for display banners that have run. So we've run nearly 2.8 million impressions, generating about 2,900 clicks. And then what's interesting about this is the store walk-ins. Because of the technology that is used for people's mobile phones, we can deliver stats as how many people were delivered this display banner or a display banner from Kinney Drugs and then entered the Kinney Drugs store. Again, that is to display the engagement behind the media and how the media does help drive store traffic. And if they're engaging with a dairy ad, we would like to think that dairy is on their mind when they're going to Kinney Drugs and doing their shopping. This is a couple of different treatments that we've run. Obviously, the Probably Move with Rosemary has run. We've also run couponing through Upstate Farms, and then there's also been some display banners that have run with that Live Local type of treatment. And then additionally, we have run a significant amount of Meta campaigns. Meta will run on both Facebook and Instagram. We've delivered over 1.1 million impressions. The creative that you're seeing here is the best performing creative. So this was the local that ran in February and March. We ran an intense chocolate milk video, and then the Kinney Skinny video. Could you play that video for us on the right-hand side?
Most of us are looking for ways to eat a little better. Well, look no further than the dairy aisle. Yes, dairy. Dairy is an excellent source of nutrients such as calcium, protein, and vitamins D and B12. This is crucial for maintaining strong bones and teeth and supporting muscle growth. Dairy also contains probiotics, which supports gut health and can improve your digestion. Studies also show that dairy can help lower your risk of some chronic diseases like osteoporosis or type 2 diabetes. Choosing locally sourced dairy ensures freshness and supports local farmers, which contributes to a sustainable food system. So next time you're at Kinney, stop by the dairy section for a delicious and nutritious boost to your diet. And that is the Skinny on gut health and dairy.
That's Meta campaign. One of the pieces of Meta creative that ran, that has been running.
And that's part of a larger campaign that's called the Kinney Skinny that focuses on in-store, product in-store, and that has the same spokesperson. So that is actually a larger campaign that is not part of what we're doing here, but is additional, brings additional value, especially to the customers because it familiarizes them with the products that are in store.
Most of us are looking.
Along that, part of our media plans that we run for Kinney Drugs, aside from the dairy campaigns, we run broadcast radio campaigns throughout all the geographies of Kinney Drugs. And as part of those campaigns, we have live reads from the on-air staff at the radio station. Could you play the one on the left first? This is Betty B.
Hello, my loves. It's Betty B here with a very important question. Are you getting enough dairy? Well, most people don't. Many people would benefit from eating more fat-free or low-fat dairy. Buying some milk and some fruits can actually make an excellent smoothie. Adding some yogurt boosts your digestive health as well, all those probiotics. Dairy contains vital nutrients that your body needs. Hello, my loves. It's Betty.
Ah, springtime. We love springtime, a season of renewal and growth. But as you're appreciating all the blooming flowers and the chirping birds and all, why not take a moment to appreciate the hard work of our local dairy farmers as well? Here's a thought. Did you know that dairy products not only nourish your body, but also contribute to the livelihoods of farmers in our community? It's true. And we're better to support both your health and your local economy than at Kinney Drugs. Milk is a timeless staple in many households, and at Kinney Drugs, you can enjoy.
So this has run 1 week per quarter. So we've just completed our second one, and those run on the radio stations 5 that we handle in Northern New York, Utica, Rome, Syracuse, and then as well as Vermont. Any questions so far before I move on?
So are you guys writing the content?
The Kinney Drugs marketing team is, along with us, we've connected them with a number of people. They've also worked with their vendor. They work with Upstate Farms in New York, and then they just changed in Vermont. I'm not sure which one it is, but they've been utilizing information from them.
Are the coupons with Upstate, is Upstate paying the dollar or is it you?
Upstate. Right. Price enough going down, Jason. All right. And then finally, there is a lot of in-store promotion. If you've gone to Kinney Drugs in February, I hope that you've seen it. If not, please visit one. We didn't realize when we were driving here that we drove right past the Kinney Drugs office, actually, so we might knock on their door on our way home. But we've done a lot of in-store promotion, and it's all been, you know, these are people that work in the retail world, so they know a lot about placement, especially with the signage. So we've run a Don't Forget the Dip Dairy Fairy creative, and we put it right next to the chips. Don't forget the milk. We put it right next to the cereal. We put a big sign above the milk case as well. And we talked a lot about Rosemary the Dairy Fairy. She does have a voice, actually. She's got a lot to say. Could you play that one on the bottom left, please?
Well, hello there. This is Rosemary the Dairy Fairy, right here in Kinney Drugs. Did you know that as you walk through our store, you're surrounded by health-boosting wonders, including our dairy products? Dairy isn't just delicious, it's also packed with essential nutrients like calcium for strong bones, protein for muscle health, and probiotics for gut health. So, while you're perusing the aisles, why not swing by our dairy section?
Did you know that 1 in
From
5
creamy
children
milk
doesn't get
to
enough to eat? If you want to help, join Kinney Drugs from June 16th to June 29th, when we are partnering with our local food pantry for a milk drive. Fresh milk is an important part of a balanced diet, and many families struggle to keep it on the table. So while you're at the register, ask your Kinney cashier about donating a gallon of milk.
Dairy Fairy,
It's a small
right
gesture,
here in
but
Kinney
it can make a
Drugs.
big
Did
difference.
you know that as you
Thank you.
walk through our store, you're surrounded by health-boosting wonders, including our dairy products?
Okay, there we go. What I wanted to display also with that promotion is that what you heard from that second piece of audio, we ran a Donate Milk campaign for 2 weeks at the end of June. And this was something that was installed in all stores. How many stores can you have again?
They have 97.
97 stores, that signage, as well as in-store radio ads promoting, which is what you just heard. And we're happy to report that there was over 2,800 gallons of milk that were purchased by Kinney store customers, thank you, for people in need. So that's 2,800 stores. The top stores were in Ithaca, Saranac Lake, Dryden, and Champlain in New York, and then Bergen's store in Vermont. Those gallons of milk will be donated and dispersed to a number of different food shelves in central and northern New York, and those will be distributed by the end of August. The 2,800 number far exceeded our expectations. There were some stores that really embraced it and really pushed it, and then, you know, in the retail world, there were some stores that didn't embrace it as much. The top performing stores, there's 4 of them in New York. And then also going back to the in-store, obviously if you walk into any sort of retail location these days, you'll hear music playing on the speakers above you. There'll be TV screens where they'll be running ads for all their local products. You have been included in all of those. There's been about 2.5 million in-store TV impressions. So that has been a lot of the visuals that you've seen in this deck. They have run in-store and then also in-store radio. So you'll be sitting there and you'll be listening to, you know, an 80s song, and then suddenly an ad will come up. And that's where the ad from Rosemary the Dairy Fairy would appear.
And then if anybody attended the Jefferson County Fair last week, there were also, Kinney had sponsored the dairy rings. There were 3 dairy rings. And then we had a Rosemary the Dairy Fairy banner in the show, like the final show ring as well. So any questions? We're gonna cover sales here. There's a lot of factors that go into the sales slide here. Any questions on the
You got 5 minutes left. So
Got it. That's okay.
I
That's all we need.
I have questions.
We have to put one. Yeah. So any questions on creative? Okay. So this slide is an illustration of the sales so far. As you can see, sales are down this year. For Kinney, this is in the dairy department. What we are going to be looking at really is the trend line here, because as you can see, sales. So our campaign here got underway about the end of February. So what we're going to be looking for is this trend line to start coming up. Some of the factors that are going on in convenience and pharmacy, like local drugstores, are no secret. It's been in the news that they are having instances where just the foot traffic is going down. So what's happening to start working they've really been working on that for a little while, but what will start happening over the next months and years really are the installation of more opportunities to get people to walk into the store. That will include clinical services, that will include like things like ear piercing, things like different services that you would walk in and get in the Kinney store. The more immediate short-term goal that the Kinney product team is working on internally is analyzing the sales of the dairy products and looking at inventory, and are there items that we want to stock more of that are being purchased more, like half gallons versus gallons. They're going to start identifying those items. And then pricing is another area that has been a overall project for Kinney. And again, I'm not telling you that is a project with Walmart, Target, and every other brick and mortar store out there today. But there's a campaign that was just launched, unrelated to our campaign, but with Kinney, that is called Smart Simple Pricing. It's called Saving Smart and Simple. And that is another effort to lower prices to get people to come into the store. So while we do see these numbers down, we will keep looking at that trend line to be coming up. For our dairy products, as you can see, we are actively promoting dairy, both in the store and then also outside of the store. So that, and then we did include our CAP grid here, which we also sent with us also.
So thank you for doing that. I think, Kristen, if you could maybe work with them, I'd like to see the budget, that's for the whole year. The year to date is what you've spent so far.
Yeah.
Yes, but they're the same.
Oh, budgeted cost should be the total amount?
That's my understanding.
Okay, all right.
Oh, you can see the progress and what you've actually used already.
Yep.
Got it. And they're two different. The one I got, this is different than what this is, so.
Okay.
Oh, I think because we had been recording it by month, this is actually February through June. This is the whole
So
first
you
half
have
of the year. You have monthly.
That's what you have, I think.
I guess if you could submit one and we look at one, that would help us decide what we're
got
looking
it.
at.
Yep, sure.
I would say, because what I look at is the percent total of overall achieved, so that means your goals and the money that you spend.
Okay.
This doesn't really tell me much because it's all 100%.
Each one.
So.
Okay.
I think if you, I think.
Okay, all right. So it's budget goal?
So
I think if you guys could maybe work that out after, that would be helpful.
Yes.
actual cost is what you spent year to date
So far.
at the end of each quarter.
Okay.
So instead of just, what you spent for quarter one and then what you spent for quarter two is building on quarter one.
Got it, okay.
Yeah. We'll revise
Okay,
that.
We'll just get it, Kristen, on it.
Kristen gets different reports than what we do sometimes, so she.
We're new.
No,
We're learning.
it's a work in progress.
So,
We'll fix it for you for sure.
that's fine.
I
I think
understand
that will be good to be able to look at the end of the year how things went.
Any other questions?
I have a comment. Kenny's in my drugstore, so I've been really following this. And I was kind of hoping what I was seeing with Dairy to Furry was our money. I didn't know that. You know what I mean? When I see it on Facebook or in the local ads, I know somebody's paying for it, but I didn't know if it was money from here.
Yeah,
understand me?
yeah.
So I'm really impressed with what you've done for the dollars you were giving. Your curve on the milk has been my complaint since I come on this board in 2011. Kenny's is always out of milk. You can't sell it if it's not on the shelf. And Upstate,
Good to know.
and Upstate tells me it's because Kinney orders their own. And I don't know if that's still the case, but
Okay.
that's what I've been told numerous times. Every time I go in there, I complain the dairy case is empty. Every time.
Okay.
So that's just a comment that they keep
They can't, it's everyone. There's 4 Kinneys, depending on which direction I go, which store I go in, they're always out of milk.
What town, what area?
Birchfield Springs, Ilion, Little Falls, St. Johnsville.
Yep.
Okay,
we'll let them.
When I come to meetings in Syracuse and go to the one in Liverpool, they're out of milk. You go to the one in Ithaca, they're out of milk.
Okay,
For
got it.
some
When you stop at the corporate office on the way by.
It's a distribution system, and that's the biggest dairy farmer's problem with all our products and every brand is getting it distributed.
Yeah, we heard a lot about.
Going on. But,
Yeah, they had it, it's always been on as well.
but ours are, I mean, I think it's gotten better over time, but it's always lower hour.
Well, they're very, one of the great things that's about being local is that you really have access. We can talk to the category manager and the VP of, merchandising so that we can communicate those things to them. And this has come really into focus. They were extremely excited about this. As you can see, they put a lot of work into this with us. So those are the kind of feedback. Yeah, the numbers were just a little disappointing. So we were really looking for that kind of feedback for sure. But we do expect, we can't expect to put advertising out and then have an immediate, increase against environmental concerns. So we are going to be looking at that trend line, so we can increase.
And the other thing is I know this is my idea, the more that goes through the drive-through pharmacy, the less foot traffic. So could we at least get dairy offered at the drive-through pharmacy?
Oh, I don't know. We'll have to mention it.
I mean, you don't know how many times I go through and I think, oh, geez, I would take that up, and I don't want to go inside.
We can buy ice cream through drive-through ice cream places.
There you go, drive-through ice cream. All right, thank you very much.
Instacart too, they have Instacart. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
See you.
All right.
December.
Yes. Let's take 10 minutes. We'll not take long, but we'll take.
Good.
So. So, Corning Place, one of our other new contractors. Welcome.
Thank you very much. We're excited to be here. Just want to start off by giving our thanks to the board for giving us the opportunity to work on this project on behalf of the New York dairy industry. So we'll jump right into it. I'm Sheree, here with Sam. The rest of our team is back working on the project. Just a really brief update before we jump into our mid-year report. Since last fall, we have had, we're a small nimble team, but 2 of our team members went on leave unexpectedly. We didn't know, obviously, from when we were doing our presentation and proposal last fall. We're very excited for them. They're doing great. So we've had to make a lot of adjustments to make sure that we've been able to continue moving forward with these projects, and I think that we have been successful in that so far. We will get into it. So the goals that we were focused on with our 2 projects, ensuring that we are working to improve the perception of family dairy farms across the state with a focus on environmental stewardship. Our second project is focused on improving communication with farmers to support the efforts to increase sales by, again, focusing on environmental stewardship and highlighting those efforts. So a little more detail on project 1 that we've been working on is our dairy stewardship campaign, and this includes our brand identity and logo, social media platform, creative collateral graphics, and our website. And also included that are a few videos that are part of our dairy stewardship campaign. We have 8 short-form videos that are around 75 seconds each, as well as a long-form video that will be compiled at the end of all of our interviews. And due to some successful time on task and efficiency, we actually will be able to share at least an additional 4 more short-form videos that we've gotten from some really great interviews that we've captured already, as well as some social media reels and content of that sort. The different videos go along what we're calling Milk's Journey, and this has a focus on sustainability efforts through each stop. The first, farmer, a farm worker, a CAPO planner, researcher, soil and water district expert, nutrient manager, hauler, and processor. And the third part of the Dairy Stewardship Campaign is also our paid advertisements on social media and online.
So we were set in our proposal to begin the project in April. We knew we really wanted to dig into the discovery and research phase. We started a couple months early. We started that in February, that process. And we ended up landing on Dairy for Good, which is the logo here on the right, lower right-hand side of the screen. So we established the brand, the full campaign, brand book, worked on the website. And so far, in terms of progress and updates, April through June, we completed 5 of our interviews. We have also completed 4 of the short form videos so far. 4 have been approved, 2 are already up on the YouTube, and we'll start to include those in the paid advertising piece, which we'll talk a little bit more about in a few minutes. And the website has officially launched. I'll kick that over to Sam to talk about a little bit more.
So we were really excited earlier this week, just on Monday, we officially launched our Dairy for Good website. And during our early research phases, we really wanted to adapt some of the practices that other websites have used that are consumer-focused and interactive. We came across some really great ones in other areas of the country and beyond. And we just wanted to take the cartoon kind of fun approach, but also the real-time captured images that we've gotten and we'll continue to add to the website. Also, to know what you can't see very well, but when you explore, you'll be able to see that we have different language capabilities. So as of this point, there's a plugin on there, so it can be viewed the text can be viewed in English and in Spanish, and it's also created inclusively and accessibly, so everyone can view it in the same way.
And that plugin has options for increasing the text size, changing the contrast for an accessibility plugin. So status and progress in terms of our budget, just to quickly go through this breakdown. So for the development, implementation, management of the Dairy for Good campaign, we have about 40% remaining on that part of the budget. For video production, there's about 47% remaining. And we have been in touch with the remaining interviewees, and we're in process of setting those up, those final interviews in the coming weeks. With the goal of meeting our timeline, which is to have all of the videos completed by the end of August and be kicking off the advertising campaign in August, which we're actually a week early. Our team back at the office this week setting those up, so we should be launching those by tomorrow. And the video aspect of the ads, those will be starting in the first week of August. And so the paid digital ad campaign, obviously, like I mentioned, we're starting that now, so there's a significant portion of that budget that's remaining, but that's the focus for the later half of the year.
And here we have an example of the grid that's strategically made on our Instagram feed so far. We are able to launch our social media platforms at the end of June with a special shout out to June is Dairy Month. As we headed into the month of July, we've posted several times with a combination of reels, graphics, photos that were captured on the farm, along with some special facts, and in case you missed it, did you know, sort of posts. Our goal across all of our platforms will be to build our audience, encourage engagement and video views. And as you can see, we have some tentative goals right now with 1 million video views, 500,000 engagements, and 5,000 followers. And this is through, at this point, the end of the year across all of our platforms that we're running.
And as you know, this being our first year, we did spend the first half of the year really focusing on building the brand, building the campaign. And so, not having a benchmark for ourselves in terms of goals, through our research, we thought that this could be attainable based on the budget that we had and the targeting that we're able to do through these platforms. So we're looking forward to reaching, hopefully exceeding these goals by the end of the year.
And then looking ahead, our team back in the office, as well as Sharice and myself, have been working on our August calendar. So we use a social media tool that's helping us put that together, make sure we're consistent with our posting, and get everything ready. Included in that calendar will be our first video paid ad post. And as Sharice talked about too, we'll also incorporate some more long-term ads as well in that plan.
And just briefly back on the social media paid advertising campaign too. So the ones that are going to be launching this week, we're starting with a Twitter carousel and a Facebook follower campaign. And then once we get into August and we start to use the videos in our paid advertisements, we'll be doing more display ads and really pushing the videos throughout the remainder of the year. Jumping into our next project, the New York Dairy Toolbox. So this includes the brand identity, logo, developing the website, as well as the creatives, which includes the videos from Project 1 that we discussed a couple of minutes ago, infographics, fact sheets, social media graphics, as well as sample social media messaging.
So upon the completion of our initial phases for Project 1, we started to look into the research, discovery, brand design, and campaign design of our New York Dairy Toolbox. That started in April and ran through the month of May. In that time, we've also secured our domain for the NewYorkDairyToolbox.com, and we've begun to develop what that website will look like, how we're going to house the resources and tools that we're also in the process of developing, and the best way to share that with industry partners. And as you can see, this was the budget at the time of the development of this presentation, and we've spent around $12,000 with about 77% of the budget remaining, and similar to our first project, a lot of that will go into the maintenance and development, early stages development, and then also sharing resources with our partners.
And so the work with outreach to partners started a couple weeks ago as well on this project. These are some of the folks we've connected with so far. We've heard back confirmations from everyone listed on the screen except Go Dairy, although 2 of their members were participants in our video series. So we're hoping we'll get a confirmation back soon that they'll be interested in partnering with us and sharing the content. So these groups have said, yes, we'd love to take content that you're developing and help get that out to our memberships, our farms, our audiences, and specifically the New York Animal Agriculture Coalition. We are excited to be able to share some of the photos that we've been taking on these video shoots that are going to be included in their project, but I don't want to take away from their presentation later on. And they've also said that these videos can be included in their sustainability section of their project as well. And we're continuing to reach out to other partners. That's ongoing. There are several other partners in the pipeline, so we're hoping to continue building out that list. And at this time, we would love to take any questions you might have.
Super. Questions?
What does the 4 stand for in the dairy sport? Is there another meaning for that I missed?
Nope, it's just shorthand for the word for. In terms of our discovery phase, we found that from a consumer standpoint, it's a little bit more playful using the number 4, especially on social media, and I'll use the word 5, but really the imagery that we're trying to portray through this campaign with that underlying tone across the board of pushing environmental stewardship, the DMPs that are being used across the board, and then using a more fun overall campaign to be able to promote that.
Okay.
Yeah, point in place to reach out to the advisory board and just contact support.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
Good. Dean, do you have any content up and running right now?
We do. So the website's up. We have 2 of the approved videos up on the YouTube page right now you can take a look at. 2 others have been approved. They're not fully uploaded yet. I think the team's literally working on exporting it today and getting them online. And there's others that we're waiting back on approval from the interviewees, because we don't want to post anything without getting approval from those that we talked to. But there are 2 videos up already, and then by next week, we should be including the video paid social media campaign. They should be up and running. So
So at the minimum, those two, and likely the other two that'll be approved this week, will be part of the mix there. And we're continuing to finish the videos that we're working on, the interviews that are being set up in the next couple of weeks to complete those interviews, and those will be added to the mix as well.
Judy?
No, I was going to ask about Jason and if they had been working on the vetting.
Alicia?
So your partners, are they contributing partners or just financially contributing, or is this project solely being funded by DPO, right?
Solely by DPO. So those, when I use the term partners, it's really more of a vehicle for us to be able to reach the community networks that those groups have already established. So their social media followings and being able to take the toolkit and all the resources available on it and get to their networks and their farmers who might be members of their organizations to help share that content on their platforms. And if there's a farm that's hosting like school tours or even legislative tours or having folks to the farm, a lot of the farms have those visitor spaces with televisions and whatnot, and those are also opportunities to share like the videos or print out the fact sheets. And the purpose of the toolkit is really to be able to provide those resources and have them all in one place for folks to be able to use.
Cool.
Just a few things. I think you didn't get the cat filled out, and I'm not harping on it, but you should work with Kristen, because you have some numbers you could put on a cat and have us be able to look at that easier than trying to find it in the, what you gave us here in the slides.
I completely agree. And we were in touch with Heather, too, to see some of the previous cats that were done. We received those in the last couple of weeks, and we started working on that to get them in the cats.
I know I want to see that for sure at the end of the year to see how you're doing with that. This seems like a pretty big bite to chew with two separate websites that you're launching. What is the goal audience then of the toolbox?
The toolbox is, and so the DPO goal at that meeting is to increase communication between industry partners and groups to then increase sales of milk with, I don't remember the full language of that goal, but so what we're doing is our audiences are like NIAC, NEDPA, Farm Bureau. Those are our main audiences, so that we can provide these resources to those different partners and groups so they can share it with their social media networks that they've already established, share in their e-newsletters to members and say, hey, here's this new resource in your dairy toolbox. Take advantage of this, use the content that's there. And one of the things included that we mentioned is like draft social media messages that people can then take.
I just wonder what's different about it than what's out there already for a toolbox and I'm not giving you a hard time, I'm trying to understand, and it doesn't seem like I'm not sure how that's gonna work. I always feel like I have a hard time finding the information I need now, let alone one more website. Are you trying to pull all that together?
Yes, so the toolbox will house all the resources that we're creating, and the hope is through these partnerships, understanding some of the work that they're working on too, we can incorporate that. And I think with this project specifically, we're really trying to, we heard you last fall about using the content that the different groups are working on and partnering with other ag organizations throughout the state to try to make sure that we're making the dollars go further. So we're really trying to work on building the relationships with those other partners and saying, hey, we've got this landing page website, this toolbox, all these resources. Let's get this to all of your members. Let's just, help share the information, because it seems like in hearing from the commissioner too, that stewardship piece and the updated set remains to the DPO goals. It's critically important. We're hoping that this can be kind of a one-stop shop moving forward, that we can build out and work with those partners to really help get the information.
I think that sounds like a great idea. I hope it works out, because I think it will be very good to see if you can get all that information to be in one spot. I think some people that have membership, it will be interesting to see how that works out. But yeah, I'll be excited to see how that moves forward. Thank you.
Roberta?
I think it's too early to ask for how many people clicked on your website yet.
Yeah.
It's only been a couple weeks or.
Days,
yeah,
just launched
Monday.
Monday. Because you said July, but you meant this, like, Monday.
We just launched the website Monday. Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see how it goes. I'm excited to see more stewardship highlighted.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's gonna be really good.
Carl, anything? All right, thank you, ladies. Appreciate your presentation. Thank you. I do believe Mr. Jacobs up. Yes, sir. How are you, bud? Doing well. Good.
I had a little bit of a meaty PowerPoint file, so I think it's going to take a second to open up.
Oh, no, that's Casey.
I'll make one comment, Barry, if I can, you have 1 second.
No, you can't.
Okay.
Go ahead.
With what Courtney just presented, the toolbox, perhaps, right, we always talk about collaboration. Maybe this, there's a lot of competition, there is, right? So now maybe we have an independent contractor, maybe get all out together.
I think that'd be wonderful.
You can say more. Jacob's presentation's not up yet. Huh? Thank you. Katie, what do you think so far?
I get so excited whenever I get to meet with the dairy industry, and it's genuine excitement because, one thing we talked about during Dairy Month, right, was the momentum and the excitement. But I see the DPO board, and I've sat on a number of boards over my career in the state, but I've never engaged with a board that's this active, right? So often I see, there's just kind of general questions that get asked, but never really this in-depth, really full analysis. And I think one of the things that's really inspiring to me is just how we're all pushing for the same purpose, right? We all have that same purpose, which is promoting the dairy industry, no matter what sector you're coming from. So I'm really excited about this.
Good. Good. How long is your presentation? Yep.
Very crisp.
It's crisp.
We're at 8:30, so here's the countdown. What is he going to do this for? What about the PDF?
You're at 86, 7. Coming. In there.
Other than computer.
We're almost there, 3%.
Like you're downloading and then opening.
Oh.
I could probably start without it.
You need one of these? We all have a copy in front of us.
You do have a copy?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, well then, yeah.
Just got your
Go ahead and plug.
Do you need a copy? There you go.
Oh, that's great. Okay. Well, I'll get into some of the high-level stuff, and as it opens, then we can go into some more specifics. This first is sort of a general overview. This isn't the updated one.
Oh, you know what? No, I printed those before you.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So I'll start here, and then we'll get into that. So,
One of the things I'm excited about this mid-year presentation is I feel like we have been rolling the ball across all of our initiatives pretty well so far. So I'm excited to share that we do have some results with all three buckets of our project. And those three buckets, as you all are probably pretty familiar with already, we have our creative campaign that we're doing this year. We have the New York Dairy media brand that we've been building and activating. And then we have our paid advertising initiatives, which kind of span across Instacart and social media paid advertising. So as of this point in the year, I think the high point so far, we filmed 8 of our I Am New York Dairy campaign features. So I'm pumped about that. Those are spanning cross professionals from a variety of different kind of categories and professions. We've actually improved our Instacart return on ad spend from last year by really focusing on video ads on the platform, so that's feeling really good. We've maintained our collaborations where we're reaching directly out to dairy organizations, creating content in partnership with them, and then doing collaboration posts with them on social media. That's being received really positively, and we're continuing to see some good numbers in terms of volume of posts there. And then working with Eileen and her team has been awesome. We meet with them once a month as sort of a accountability content review partner to look at what we've done so far, and then kind of future plan to say, hey, what's going on? What could we be doing different? What could we be doing better? I know that was something the board had kind of requested last year, so that's been working really well for us this year. A couple of things that, we're not super stoked about at the moment, but things that we're definitely, thinking about and working towards. Our social accounts have been growing, and by no means are they shrinking or anything, but they're not growing at the same rate of the first 2 years. So we're kind of trying to solve for, hey, we had these pretty insane numbers the first 2 years, I think we spanned over 40,000 followers across all of our accounts. We were really excited about that, but we're not seeing the same type of success in terms of content performance. And then the response rate for some of these farm collaboration content doesn't seem the same as last year. A lot of these accounts don't seem to be super active, so we've got to message them multiple times and say, hey, do you still want to do that post with us? Hey, we just made this piece of content. Are you cool if we put it up? So it's taking a little more, I could say, legwork to bring those things to life. But we have worked with, I think, over 30 organizations and created somewhere north of 160 collaboration posts across a variety of dairy organizations. And those are farmers, processors, groups like NIAC, et cetera, that we're doing content together with. So let's talk about the website first. I haven't really put a spotlight on this in past presentations, but I did want to share sort of an update in regard to website performance. We are constantly creating blog content, updating pages. We have a dedicated page on the website for our campaign called I Am New York Dairy. And one of the things I think is a cool indicator that the website is resonating and has continued to grow in its performance is that we're ranking for more and more keywords in Google search. So we're the first or second result when someone Googles New York Dairy. If you search NY milk, we're usually in the top 5 search results. And there's another 10 to 15 keywords that if you search very specific to New York Dairy, the world that we live in, we're going to be one of the top results there. And that's called out as you kind of see one of these charts where you can see the number of keywords that the website is ranking for. So that feels good knowing